And welcome back, everybody. It's Creative Redundancy back again, the one known as CR, like it says on your screen. And yes, there will be some visuals along the way on this screen. Welcome to this, it's another edition of the PREP stream for me, which is actually an acronym that I've prepared in advance. Right. So, I know it's been a while since I've been live. Probably like a month, or it seems like it. And last month was short. It's already like Saturday, the 6th, the 7th today, right? Yeah, the 7th. So yeah, it's been a while. So I'm just gonna make sure of something too. And yes, okay. I'm glad I see that on the screen. Looks like my chat's working. So, yes. This stream will be a prepping type of chat, a preparedness type of chat. Now, I'm not kind of focus this a little bit more to certain things, unlike my more general PREP streams where I focus on each category. I'm going to focus more on the preparedness side and the resources this time around. Not saying the people in the environment out there aren't important too, but I'm gonna focus in just a tad here. So, what have I been up to lately? Well, I've been setting up some stuff, or at least attempting to anyways. And getting some stuff done as I'm doing this at the same time, apparently. Which I need to check on. Okay. So, one of the things I've been doing today is just checking on some batteries that I have here. Like, for example, like this one right here. Let me turn on the camera. Like this one right here. Which I've been charging up here amongst some other ones that I've been using. Because today, graciously enough, Mother Nature has provided some sunshine, some solar energy, some solar power, right? Not so much on the solar thermal energy part of it, but it is Mother Nature is providing some sunshine today, so I've decided to make sure that I'm charging up some batteries here. That's what I've actually been doing for the last little bit. It's just kind of topping off some batteries in advance, which includes some AAAs and some more AA's. I haven't finished totally like charging them up, but they're on the more higher side of the voltage, right? They're in that 1.1 volt range at least. So they're in that good range at least. They're not totally fully charged up, but they definitely have more power than they did when I first started the day. That's for sure. I also have to double check some of these other batteries that I have too. I got this headlamp beside me here. I'm just checking on the batteries. I figured now would be a good time. It would definitely be a good time. So that is what I'm doing. And seeing what I have for voltage here. I guess it would help if I turn the multimeter on. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, it's only saying 1 on this one. Let's check the second one. Yeah, see, these ones I'm gonna have to top off a little bit more. Oh yeah, I'm definitely not gonna have to top these off. So that is what I'm gonna do here. Just some nickel metal hydride type of batteries. I've had these for a bit. So I'm gonna top them off with one of the spare chargers I have. Actually, I might be I'm not getting that much sun right now, but maybe I can squeeze in some more power here. If I don't use solar, then I'll just charge it for a battery bank or something like that. Then I have to. It's down on the last bar. If I where is it here? I'll show you guys here. Since I have some more laying out here. This one I've shown before. It's got 2 out of 4. I'll use some of this power right now, actually. Grab my charger that I use for it. I have a legacy charger. Specifically for charging these. It won't charge a lithium battery or one of those iron phosphate type of batteries, but it will charge the other batteries that I have. So in the meantime, maybe in the future I'll get a more up-to-date version that's a little bit more slimline than what I'm currently using, but this will work for me in the meantime. Let's put this in, get this going here. Like I said, it's a legacy device right here. See, legacy device right here, as you can tell. I've actually had this for a while, actually. I've had this for quite a while, actually. I'm actually surprised of all the things I have. I'm still using it, but it still is useful, right? So, in terms of preparedness, well, being able to see it is quite nice. Because unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but it's not always gonna be daylight. In some places out there, don't have if there's no internal lighting, and there's no windows or whatever, it is pitch dark, right? So, like a washroom that doesn't have a window, right? Well, you're not gonna be able to see. So, I'm making sure I'm topping these off as much as I can just to get them ready here. Let me make sure I'm plugged in here. Come on. Work with me here. Work with me here. Come on, work with me here. Come on, device, work with me here. There we go. Come on. Alright. So I'm going to get one more other things that I use for charging purposes and top these off. I think I'll start with this one. Unfortunately, this is a 2 battery thing, and obviously a headlamp usually takes 3, so I'm charging 2 out of the 3, at least at the moment. Take one of my air batteries here and pop it in, put it in the charger, and kind of use some of this power that I have here. Speaking of which, check this out, battery while I'm at it too. The reason I'm doing this is, like I said, so it's ready to go. And besides, like I said, I'm getting some solar today, relatively speaking. So I figured I'd use it. Just checking on this air AAA. And it's at 1.16 volts. It's not quite all the way max for charge, but there's more of a charge in it anyways. So, well, there are 2 AAAs that I have in the charger to charge up for a little bit. Especially since I checked the voltage beforehand, so I know where it's starting at. It's starting out at that 1 volt range, maybe a little bit less. So, I mean, if I can get into that 1.1 volt range, well, obviously the 1.2 volt range, well, obviously it'll be much better. And not only that, if I have them in a headlamp, not the output, the runtime will be better, right? Because I'll be starting off with like kind of more full-ish batteries instead of being foolish and, you know, using a headlamp that's like the batteries are like half done or only have half the voltage, right? It wouldn't last that long. So I figured I'd top them off. Among some other things, I guess so. So, what other little things have I been doing? Well, one of the things that I've been doing lately, for anyone that hasn't seen the last couple of videos I've been posting, like they're almost all exclusively related to winter, obviously. But one of the things I've been doing is actually reorganizing. I took the time because I had some time. I think I was like watching another stream or something like that, or I had some time, whatever. But I was actually reorganizing some of this winter stuff because I don't usually do it like in like October or November, right? I'll bring it out. Don't get me wrong, but in terms of organizing or rearranging things, I decided to do it late in the season, just because I'm like, well, what have I been using, right? Like, for me, in terms of preparedness, winter is quite up there. It's one of those things that I'll see it virtually every year. I mean, unless I move or whatever down south or become a snowbird and travel down south, you know, I'm not gonna be able to dodge the cold, the snow, or the wind. Or whatever mixed precipitation I can get. I mean, like, I've shown you guys in video, even this year, this calendar year alone, what I've seen. Like, the last few videos that are winter related, all of those actually happened this year, this 2026, right? The freezing rain, yeah. The melting, yeah. The chipping, yeah, right? I mean, that's why sometimes I've been away for a little bit or not available for some other people's live streams because I'm like busy doing this stuff, right? Being responsible, right? You know, taking care of, you know, the household, as they say, right? Hey, it's Iron Fire Horse. Hi, how are you doing? Hopefully you're doing well. Nice to see you again. I appreciate you dropping by. You made it just in time. Just in time, Iron Fire Horse, yeah. So, like, that's what I've been doing, alright? Setting things up, right? Well, not, I shouldn't say setting things up, more like kind of evaluating it, right? Like, I actually rearranged some of this more outer winter clothing. So ski pants, jackets, stuff like that. I've actually rearranged it. I used to have it in this one place, then I rearranged it to be on the other side of, let's say, a closet or whatever, right? Because I was just like, one of the things that I wanted to make sure was, like, because I have different jackets, right? Like, I know some of you down south may not even have a winter jacket, but up here in Canada, you know, a winter jacket kind of is a necessity, right? It's not a want, it's a necessity, right? Because I don't want to freeze my tush off, right? As they say, right? And besides, frostbite kind of bites, for real, right? Yeah, you're doing good? Yeah, that's nice. Hey, did you ever get the boots, Iron Fire Horse? Did you ever get those boots, by the way? Just curious. So, yeah, like I was saying, I've actually rearranged certain little things, and I've decided to rearrange in terms of deployment. So, like for me, for example, like, ski pants, for example, right? They're I wouldn't say an absolute requirement for winter, but they are very, very useful and warm for winter, right? You can get by with, long johns, a second pair of pants, for example, but ski pants kind of can block wind and resist, let's say, wet snow, for example, right? A little bit better than, you know, if you wear two pairs of pants, for example, right? And usually they have a liner on the inside, for example, right? So I've decided to kind of separate that from my jackets, let's say jackets or coats, because I'm more likely to require the jacket before I require the ski pants. If that makes any sense. Like, yeah. Oh, okay, I see Iron Fires. Okay, cool, cool, cool. I was remembering that from you, so yeah. I think you actually probably mentioned it in the last live stream we did. That's how long it's been since I've gone live. Like, I'm continuing a conversation I had the last time I went live, which I'm trying to remember when that was. I'm pretty sure I did one last month for February, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure I did anyway. But it's March now, so I better march on. Yeah. Well, I mean, because, like, I was just thinking to myself, there's a certain temperature where ski pants are too warm. What I'm seeing right now, it's not too warm to wear ski pants right now, right? Like, if I was outside for long periods of time or whatever, I might consider it, or let's say, and that's just if I'm going, let's say, hypothetically skiing, for example, or it could be one of those things where, hey, am I out at an outdoor event or whatever, right? For long periods of time, I could bring those along with me if I wanted to and wear them, right? But generally speaking, let's just say if it's 14 Fahrenheit minus 10 Celsius, I don't necessarily need to wear them. I can get by with, let's say, second pair of pants or long johns, something along the lines of that underneath, right? Where the ski pants, I find, are much more useful when it's extremely windy because of the windshield, or the raw air temperature is actually, let's say, minus 22 Fahrenheit, minus 30 Celsius, or lower, right? Because in the last couple of years, I've been trying out, so because some of the ski pants are kind of newer, I've been actually trying them out, right? But I'm doing it in a certain way to mimic certain little things, right? I wouldn't say quote unquote a test of it, but it's more like, how do I say, like, just seeing how warm they are. I guess, for a lack of a better phrase, right? So what I've actually done is, the last few times I've tried them out, by actually being outside with them, right? Let's just say I gotta go for a walk, or I'm going somewhere for a walk, right? At that temperature, let's just say, I don't know, below 0 Fahrenheit, below minus 17 Celsius, right? For example, right? To see how, because I know because two pairs of pants, or a pair of pants and long johns are warm at that temperature. My legs aren't even warm enough, generally speaking. So what I've started to experiment with, or as part of the seeing how warm they are, is actually I'm only wearing shorts underneath. No pants, right? So no jeans, no slacks or anything like that, and just going out like that, right? Right? Not quite commando, but you know what I mean? Like, because I figured if my legs are still warm wearing ski pants with shorts underneath, clearly if I'm wearing long johns or actual pair of pants, like slacks, jeans, or whatever underneath, certainly my legs are gonna be warm already. So, like, you know what I mean? So that's how I've been doing it. I'm just like, just to see, right? Am I to notice the coldness, or is it one of those things where the shell of the ski pants and the insulation that many of them do have, is it gonna be sufficient, right? Because I actually did try this out in, like, what, minus 15 Fahrenheit, minus 26, 27 Celsius, right? So, like, don't get me wrong. Like, if the temperature was even colder than that, let's just say minus 35, minus 40, yeah, yeah, I can, you know, up my game by putting on like long johns or actual pants underneath. Still, right? I still have that option in there, right? So yeah. Yeah, I get what you mean, Iron Fire Horse, yeah. So that's one of the things I've been trying out. Like, actually, I can see. I've actually did it so well that I can actually pull them out right now. And not that I'm like, let's see. I'm not gonna pull them out. Well, I guess I can show you guys. Whatever. I guess if I work this deployment in the way that I want to, I should be able to do this without actually, by it. I can actually bring it out and then put it back, right? Hey, it's DK. What up, Dave? So yes. See? Ski pants. Sorry, I don't have my tripod, but cool. See? One of the pieces of gear that I actually use, right? It's got the cuff at the bottom and all that stuff, right? I know Iron Fire Horse said about this right here. You don't use yours if the snow is high and going. Yeah, exactly right. So this is the one I use. I have another pair. It's a little bit longer. It doesn't have the what suspender part or whatever, right? I mean, I don't need to actually wear them with them, but I can just wear them. But it's got a zipper and a button and stuff like that, right? I mean, it has insulation, right? It's multiple layers, right? But yeah, I've actually tried these out, right? And see how warm they are. Like, to be honest, I actually look forward to some of this cold at times. And you're like, what? You look forward to the cold, CR? I'm like, well, I've said to our people and some of our friends I have, right? The reason that I look forward to the cold because it's the only time I can actually test some of this gear out for real, at least somewhat for real, right? If it's too warm, it's too warm. And I know some of you might think, hey, CR, can't you just go to the frozen food aisle or whatever, the cold aisle in the supermarket or whatever? I'm like, first of all, it's not that cold. Right? It's cold, but it's not that cold, right? And besides, the outdoor temperature, at least here for me, can get colder than that. So, like, to me, that's not really a test. I need to try it out when it's actually, like, at the temperature that I require that extra insulation, that require that extra. I need to hold back more of my heat that I'm generating and not let it just vent out into the air, into the environment, right? I need that cover, that shelter element, right? So, because of it, I decided now that's the only time I try them out. Because then I get a sense of it. I'd be like, hey, at minus 27 Celsius, I've tried this out. Maybe for, let's say, an hour at least, right? Just to see. I mean, honestly, I want to go try some more of that more often and maybe a little bit longer, right? And I don't get the same results 2, 3, 4, 5 hours in, right? Because if you're getting cold in the first 10 minutes, it's probably just going to get worse in the next hour, right? But if you're really warm in the start, or warmish, right? Yeah, you probably can maintain that for a little bit. Hey, it's Molly! Hi, Molly! Welcome back. I mean, welcome. Well, Dave, I'm just gonna, I'll briefly show this because it's not that, it's like, what, 10 Fahrenheit, maybe 9 Fahrenheit. It's minus 13 now. It's Celsius. Show you guys the snowbank. See? Snow. That ain't CG snow. I can't believe I'm gonna do this. It's not even that warm out, but yeah. See? Real snow. Okay. Okay. That's how you're gonna see. It's not that warm out. It's sunny out. Like, it's sunny out, but it's not that warm out. This is more like Arctic air that I'm seeing. I think there's a high pressure system still. That's why I'm seeing it like this. Where it's sunny skies, but it's like Arctic cold because that's why it's sunny. There's no moisture in the air, right? I barely even see clouds at all. Am I? And let me just actually take a look at the sky. I'm in here. I mean, yeah, it's actually mainly sunny, almost clear out. Very thin haze of cloud at best, at most, right? So we're under the influence of a Arctic high pressure system. That's why it's still relatively cold, yet sunny. You're on strike from doing it. I see. I've actually had to brush or shovel a little bit this month already, but it's starting to fade down. Actually, you know what, Dave? I might actually see those temperatures next week. Because cloud covers on roll wind. I think there must be a low pressure system off the Pacific or whatever, right? Because I think the wind direction is supposed to change. And instead of being influenced by this Arctic high pressure system out west right now, I think I'm going to get some, westerly or southerly flow of warmer air. And from the warm air. And hopefully the jet stream will rise. Because right now, currently, I'm actually supposed to see more spring-like weather. Let's just say. More spring-like weather. Now, officially, the calendar spring will be coming up. The first, but actually having real spring here. Well, I might see the temperature, but snow's gotta melt first. Well, and the ice. And the ice underneath the ice, and yeah, and all that stuff, right? Hey, look! It's CB! Hello! Look, she's here! Hi, CB, how are you doing, my friend? Oh, yeah, Dave, yeah, I guess I can understand that, right? You're probably getting warmer air from the south, alright? That Arctic air from Hudson's Bay, that area is kind of well north of you right now, right? You know? I haven't looked at the jet stream map for a little bit this week, but I mean, I'm pretty sure you're probably, the jet stream's probably way higher out east than out west right now. Aw. But yeah. So, well, let me check out. Oh, I should check on the batteries again. And I'm trying to charge up just to see where they are at. And besides, I already got the multimeter up. Let's see where I'm at. Whoops. Let's switch that in my hand. I'm almost at 1 volt on it. Like I said, I'm just using a battery bank right now. I'm charging some of the batteries in the sun. Well, with some of the sun I'm still getting. But it's because I got 2 bars on this battery bank, and I'm just not use up some of the power. Put the power into the batteries before I recharge up the battery bank. I mean, I still got 2 bars on it. So it's probably at like 40%. So, once once I hit that, the flash indicator, top it back off. Like, if I only had one battery bank, it'd be one thing, but I don't just have one, right? So I cycle the ones I do have, right? I always try, and I say try, to at least, if you have one battery bank, it's one thing, but if you have more, for example, right? One of the things I try to do is make sure, at least, let's say you had two or three or more or whatever, right? I try to make sure that at least one of them is fully charged, for example, right? Just so, let's just say, hey, suddenly it's Saturday right now. Let's say, hey, CR, yeah, let's go camping. When? On Monday. For how long? For 4 days, right? Or let's just say something along the lines of that. I can just bring the fully charged battery bank instead of bringing a half one. I remember one year, and the reason why I'm saying is because the one time that I went camping in the summer. Now, this is not the same one that I've shown in a video because it's not the same year, but I only had half a battery bank or a half capacity, right? Because it was only, I mean, it was still useful no matter what because someone had to use it, but I was just like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't do that. you know, I was like, oh yeah, half a battery bank, it'll suffice, right? We could access the vehicles, whatever, right, to recharge. I'm like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't do. Maybe that wasn't such a great idea. So I'm trying to make sure that if I'm going out for let's say a day, I can get by with half a battery bank, right? But if I'm going out on vacation, something along the lines of camping out, whatever, right? I'll bring the full one, right? For example, and obviously the charging cable that goes along with that. Oh, let me just pause and say hi to Lily. So there is one other thing I've been slowly bringing together here. I guess you're not here this first, but Huga knows about this because I've talked to her about this before. And by the way, Huga, I still want to talk to you about it. Because, I haven't talked to you about it for a while. I would like your input on it one of these days. Eventually soon. Hopefully this month. Maybe today. But I've been working on an information type of creation. For a lack of a better phrase, a notebook, binder, whatever you want to call it, right? I'm putting my own flair to it, right? I'm just trying to kind of, almost like a cheat sheet, I guess, right? But I'm trying to, fine tune it a little bit more, right? How much information can I squeeze on an 8x11 sheet, right? Let's say both sides, right? How much information can I squeeze in there, right? It still be useful enough and still be, readable or legible, right? And I'm doing this by hand. I could print something off or whatever in 8 font size or whatever, but I think if I actually manually do it, I'll actually recall the information too, right? I'm not just gonna go to some site or whatever and just print something off. I mean, yeah, it would work, but I feel like I would get a little bit more benefit out of it if I put it together. Not just because I have the time to, but because I can fine tune the information and emphasize certain little things within this sheet. For example, keywords, right? And not just quote unquote highlighted with a highlighter, right? I mean, let me just highlight this. Literally, I could just bring a highlighter and highlight, right? But the thing is, I feel like, it doesn't help if you highlight everything, right? you know, you highlight key things or whatever, right? Key things that stand out, right? That's one of the things I remember about school, right? It's just like don't highlight everything, because then there's no contrast anymore, right? They put it in a plastic. Yeah. Because I just want to fine tune the information first, right? And not only that, where it stands out and like, and not just words, right? Pictures too, diagrams, something along the lines of that, right? Where hey, sometimes a picture or a diagram says 1,000 words, as the saying goes, right? I'm just like, you know what? Maybe this is how I want to do it instead of like, all right, take care, CV. But it's just one of those things I want to fine tune a little bit more, right? So one of the things I might read, watch, listen, let's just say to some things and just kind of think to myself, it's like, I think that would be important. Or is it something that, maybe not as important, right? So some key things. So some key areas that I'm trying to hit upon is, let's say, food, water, right? Stuff like that. Now, I don't know if I could squeeze all the food part into one sheet. The water part, I think I can, because I'm like, I might put in some more details, right? So, key things to keep in mind, right? I guess with water, for example, right? You know, some I could be putting in on that cheat sheet, pre-filter when possible or as much as possible, right? And I'm starting to realize how useful that is too, right? So if you do have gear like a filter or whatever, right, pre-filtering can help. At least, so your real filter, your primary filter, doesn't have to actually filter out the sediment, for example, or the larger particles within the water itself, right? Even if it's something as simple as pre-filtering through a coffee filter or whatever, right? I mean, I remember that as a kid. I've mentioned this before. One of my science classes, right? You know, because we were learning about water filtration and water itself, right? And there was a science class where we were talking about, we understood about fire too, right? But, but in terms of water, right, we actually had this lab or project, I should say, where we actually had to make a homemade filter. Nothing commercial, right? We could use any type of filter medium or whatever, but we couldn't buy something commercial, right? I'd say like a water pitcher, whatever, along the lines of that, right? So we had to put one together, right? Like I used something else because I wanted to be, adventurous and try something else, right? Versus everyone else's kind of, because like our teacher said about coffee filters, and like literally, like I swear, like 8% of the classes was like it was just a water filter, coffee filter, right? I tried something else, right? So, like I think there was, I don't, was there? I think there was one person that did use a sand rock type of filter, right? I don't know if they had charcoal or activated carbon in there, but like basically, my teacher would literally go outside, put some dirt, mud, and such, and sticks and all that stuff in some water, and as this is our, what we have to filter, right? Just to kind of simulate something. Obviously, it didn't have anything like dissolve things in it like salt, sugar, or anything like heavy metals or anything like that per se, right? But it was physically, dirty. You can even see it, right? So, I mean, we were graded by clarity. Obviously, clarity does not mean water safe, right? It just means there's less stuff in it. Because the things that hurt you at times in water are things that you cannot see with the naked eye, right? You need a microscope or whatever, right, to see something that small, right? Like, we can barely even, like, the human eye can barely even see, like, pollen. And pollen's quite big. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So, you know, I always keep I know I refer to this class that I took, right, all the time, because, you know, it's very educational. You know, of all the things I remember, I'm like, well, that's still important, right? That's still important to remember, right? You know, I might have forgotten, you know, some other more technical science class, science like stuff, right? But there's that practical stuff that I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna remember this, right? So, like, don't, like, let's see here. I don't, wow. I don't see the coffee filters I have. I've went away from using coffee filters, or at least for coffee anyways, but I do have the coffee filter still, right? Even though I'm not using coffee maker, I'm using, like, drip percolator a little bit more frequently now, right? But I still do have the coffee filters as a backup option and as a way to pre-filter water if absolutely necessary, depending on what's going down, right? Like, I know in the last video that I showed a water filter, no, did I pre-filter it? No, you saw it. I mean, I tried to take it in one continuous roll of footage, right? So no, very minimal cutting, because I wanted to show you guys that, hey, this is the water source, right? I took rainwater. That was just about 24 hours old, right? And used a commercial water filter, right? You know, could I have pre-filtered? Yes, of course. I just wanted to show you guys that I'm using the items. I always try to, right? Because that video is something I may have to do in the real world. For example, you know, some sort of power outage in the summertime. Let's say, for example, right? I mean, like, you know, plumbing's down, water's down, or whatever. Well, it didn't rain, but I need to make sure that this water that I'm ingesting, is safe, or at least safer, I should say, right? So, hence I used it, you know, and get a sense of it. And one of the things that I didn't mention so much in that video was, like, and it depends on the water filter, right? Some of them will biologically make it safer. Maybe not remove viruses or heavy metals. Maybe some of them will do microplastics, right? But the taste part too, right? Especially if it doesn't have an activated carbon element to it, right? I do have another one that has an activated carbon element. I haven't tried it yet, right? But I wanted to see it first, right? Because this one was pretty good. I mean, like, you know, for being 24 hours old, it's not standing water. It's not water that came from a lake or a river or from an ocean, right? So there's only so much in there, right? But one of the things is that the filter I use doesn't have an activated carbon element, right? So flavor or taste can transfer over still, right? So it wasn't, like, terrible, don't get me wrong, but I gotta remember, like, oh yes, this happens, right? Because if it was for real, well, I obviously did for real, but it was to simulate something more realistically, like, hey, I gotta use rainwater for water to actually drink with, not just to clean, not just to wash the floors or do dishes, but actually for drinking purposes, right? So I'm like, you know what? I need to try this out and simulate this for real as much as possible, right? Just so I know, hey, just the taste of it, get a sense of it. So I realized, hey, if I gotta do this for real, because it's really important, I realized that, yeah, maybe, whatever, right? Maybe after filtering it, maybe I'll add a little iced tea in there or whatever, right? Cut that taste down. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it was there. I know it was there, right? Like, don't get me wrong, like, nothing really happened. I didn't get sick or anything like that, but I was just like, that taste part, I'm like, yes, it is in there, right? Because it's from the water source. Because it's probably dissolved stuff within it, right? Or whatever, right? So, yeah. Did you, Iron Farmers? Yeah, see, that's one thing that I tried to keep in mind, right? Like even let's the fire element in terms of like usually in the preparedness community, I guess it would be like core body temperature, right? The bushcrafting may, fire, right? And I guess you know that's one of the things that you know how do I say this? How do I say this? I'm trying to think of how I'm saying this, but like, I gotta remember at times that fire, yes, it can do all these things. It's possible to, you know, disinfect, boil your water, cook your food, signal, and all this stuff. Like I've said in the light and the dark parts of a fire. I think something along the lines of that, right? Because fire is a double-edged sword. Yes, it can signal for you, but it can also get you spotted. Is that the same thing? Yeah, it's just gonna depends on the context, right? Right. Can water boil water? Water can water boil water? Can fire boil water for you? Yes, if you have a container. But it can also burn you if you mishandle it or oops, right? It happens, right? So like, and the thing is, fire is one of those things that you actually have to kind of actively set up or maintain, right? Because fire, I'm just talking about, let's say, wood biomass type of source, right? I'm not talking about like some propane or anything like that. I'm not saying those don't have maintenance too, but but all of them are consumable, right? You consume the fuel, hence you get that reaction of light and heat, right? Sometimes you see a blue flame, sometimes you see, an orange red flame or that standard yellowish type of flame, right? Then you may see, right? But it's all consumable and you have to maintain that, right? Because in certain situations, in my opinion, like, fire may not always be the first option. Or if you do, let's say in wintertime, right? It's cold or whatever, right? Yeah, that's an option. But, a fire that's beside you in the middle of winter, right? Yeah, it'll warm up your front side to a certain degree, right? It's not to warm up your backside because you're blocking the radiant heat, right? It's hitting your chest, your face. Your back's gonna get cold, right? Especially if you have this, because the thing is about, let's say, a campfire or whatever, right? You can only be so close to it. It's just the way it is, right? There is a certain distance for fire to be effective, because you can't get that close to it or else it's way too hot, and you don't want to be so far away because you're not going to feel the heat. So you want to be in that Goldilocks zone where you're getting the warmness, but it's not too hot, right? Because, if that makes any sense. Especially if you're wearing synthetic or whatever, and you're not wearing, let's say, wool, for example, that can handle heat a little bit better and not melt or randomly char like cotton or melt like synthetic. Because usually, as you take steps back from a fire, usually you feel less and less heat, right? There's that sweet Goldilocks zone where, you're getting the warmth, a lot of warmth, but you're not getting burnt, right? It's not too hot, right? So, I was actually looking at a video about that yesterday. I was just like, yeah, this kind of makes sense, right? It was specifically talking about a fire hole, or I guess in the preparedness community, in the bushcrafting community, the Dakota fire hole, right? I was like, oh, yeah, right? Because it was talking about, like, a big one or a small one, right? I was just like, and think about it, right? Like, a big camp, let's say a big bonfire, right? For example, maybe the sun, let's say something that's a little bit more than just a campfire, right? Like, I've had those before too, right? And yes, you can, a bigger campfire, you can get more people around it, right? But you can only get so close to it before too much heat, right? Obviously, if you're cold, you want to warm up, but you don't want to be like, oh, that's way too hot. It's like, you want to find that Goldilocks zone that's just right, right? And sometimes you can go through that fuel quite quickly, right? Because if you're using fire to get warm, right? And not just for some, oh, hey, I'm out camping, I'm out with friends, right? Let's just say survival related. Like, it's like you're using this not just for light or, oh, it's cool to look at kind of deal or whatever, right? You're actually using it because it's actually cold, right? One of the things is, like, you have to maintain it. Fuel, too, right? And like I said, fire consumes, right? So, I've been thinking to myself, I'm like, is it easier to keep a moderate, at least, a moderate type of fire going, or, or have to continuously, like, cut, chop, whatever, big logs to maintain this bigger version of it. When I say bigger, I mean, like, bigger. Like, think of, like, any campfire you've been to or whatever, and just, multiply the surface area by, like, let's just say 5 or 10, right? That kind of difference, right? Because one of the things I thought was really important that I was like, oh yeah, that's important to keep in mind, is that because fire has flames, right? Because of both buoyancy and because heat rises, right? You get that convection of hot air right above it, right? Hence, you put your hand over a candle, you feel the heat up right above it, right? But as you get, and if you get too close, yeah, it's not burn you, right? It's not get hot, right? But if you pull your hand away, let's say inch by inch or centimeters by centimeter, it is getting cooler because the distance is increasing. Hey, it's Verno. Hi, Vane. Yeah, I'm waiting for tomorrow's warm. Well, actually, it's supposed to show up during the week, during the business week. This upcoming week. Yeah. That too. Iron bars. Yeah, cost too. Sorry, I wasn't looking at the chat for a little bit. Just making sure. Like I said, I didn't even know Verna came in. I was just like looking up and not just talking like a podcast or like a blog, and I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta interact with my chat. This ain't a static video. I'm actually like live with this right now. Yeah. Actually, you know what? I actually did see it was actually sunny on February 2nd here. I think it was like at least 14 Fahrenheit minus 10, but it was sunny that day. And sunny. It's actually the exact same thing today, almost. Although it's a little bit. Actually, I don't know, it's colder today than that day, but you know. But yeah, I mean, efficiency. Yes, that's the word I'm looking for, right? Because, like, when they say, oh hey, if you get firewood gets 3 times as much or whatever that thing is, right? And I get that, right? Because you have to maintain it. Well, because you have to maintain it, you have to put some effort into it, right? The wood's not just to drag itself over like 20 feet to your campsite or fire pit or whatever, right? You don't have to move it, right? You know, and if it's on your own, no machinery or whatever, you don't have to manually do it. Maybe you're lucky and you got a pulley or whatever or some cordage to use, right? I mean, like, but still, you still have to put some effort into it, right? And if you're gathering it, well, you're going out to gather it, right? Because like, how do I say this? In my opinion, you know, having a fire that you can maintain for a period of, let's just say, winter, whatever, right? That you can maintain, helps you keep warm, right? That's not done randomly, like burn down the forest or your shelter that you've made or tent. Yeah, that seems like a good deal. A good way to go, right? Something you can maintain. And let's just say you put one log in and you're getting 95%, even 80% of that stored energy within that log. Let's just say it's a 6-inch wide, 6 inch wide by 6 inches long, right? I mean, and this is including, you chopped it, you've increased the surface area, you split it on all that stuff, right? Imagine being able to get like 75-80% of that potential that's there, that heat, and it's directed to you more, or doing the things that you would like it to do. Let's say, like I said, like go towards boiling that water. Or melting the snow so you can heat up some water so you can actually have your coffee that you actually surprisingly have, right? Or, something along the lines of that, right? Because that's one of the things that I've been looking into a little bit more. It's just like efficiency, right? It's just like, because if it's a little bit more effective, you might be able to like get the same, a similar benefit to something bigger, but with, let's say, half the wood or half the fuel, right? Because you're increasing the efficiency of it a little bit more, if that makes any sense. Like, it's just like, the difference between like an open campfire or fireplace compared to, let's say, a rocket stove, or let's say a metal iron cast iron sandstone rock stone Dakota fire hole type of fire uh, setup, right? The efficiency of it, if that makes any sense, because that's one of the things I've been like looking into a little bit more, right? Because some areas, right, wood can be scarce, right? Like look in an Arctic, right? There is no wood, there is no trees beyond a certain point, right? As you know, so they they use like what, blubber from seals or whatever, an oil lamp or whatever, right? They gotta make that go for a while, right? They don't have countless, endless woods to dip into or whatever, right? And not only that, you know, try to have seasoned wood and all that stuff, right? You know, because it burns better, less creosote and all that stuff, right? Because more of the moisture has evaporated or been released before the combustion part, right? Because obviously, wet wood will create a lot of steam and smoke, and not a lot of heat or length that you may want if you want to, quote unquote, signal or boil your water or cook your food or whatever, right? Now, I mean, there is times for, like, don't get me wrong, I've had more smoky type of fires. Maybe because it's in the middle of summer, mosquitoes bad. Maybe something along the lines of that. Yeah. Where I don't actually need the heat part, but I need the, hey, this is going to deter the bugs a little bit more, right? Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Because another thing is, like, I was thinking is that, let's just say you have, I'll use a circle as an example because it's easier to explain it. Let's say you have, like, let's say a 5 foot wide, right? I'm talking about like diameter, right? From edge to edge, diameter, right? Not the radius that's from the center point out to the edge, but diameter, right, of a fire. It's in the circle or whatever, right? You'll feel some heat. Obviously, you're gonna feel the heat. You're gonna feel the heat no matter what. But the thing is, the heat that's right in the center, unless it's radiating it out right towards you and not getting blocked or whatever, a lot of that is just radiating up through convection, right? Because heat rises because of buoyancy, right? For the same reason why a hot air balloon floats, because it's warmer, so it floats. It's it's less dense than the cold air, so it floats and stuff like that. It gets suspended for the time being, right? Until it cools down and settles back down and all that stuff, right? Hey Vanessa, how are you doing? Nice to see you again, Vanessa. Welcome, welcome. Appreciate you dropping by. Because, like, I've been experimenting with something. And in terms of efficiency with something. Like, like, I don't want to give it away, but, like, and this is a very recent thing for me. Like, literally, like, not that long ago. Like this is the first season I've actually used it. All right, just something I just came across. It was actually like from something else. I'll explain it later. I might show a video or whatever, or do a more detailed video or stream all this. But like, I had it. It was working so well, right? That literally at times I could put something in And by the time the combustion has ended, more or less, a lot of the time I was just down to ash, right? Not, I didn't even have, at times, it's not all the time, but basically what I'm saying is it was more efficient. I feel like, and because I can control it a little bit better in terms of the amount of heat generated and the time that it releases it, right? Like, let's just say, for example, that's 6 inch by 6 inch log, right? 6 inch diameter, 6 inches long, right? You know, if you can liberate all, if you shaved it down to like shavings, right? Like a feather stick or whatever. If you feather that all the way down, and I'm like all the way down, right? And ignited that, let's just say with a lighter or a ferrocerium rod, right? I mean, since you've increased the surface area, you're going to liberate that heat very, very quickly. But because it's quick, in this case, right? Not like a flash tinder or whatever, right? It's very, what's the word I'm looking for? The duration's not that long, right? So think about it. Like, yeah, you can liberate a lot of the heat out, right? But will it boil your water, for example, right? Because if you look at something like what's that called, the Swedish fire torch, right? For example, people boil water on that stuff, right? And that's just using one log cut down. It's like a chimney, like a rocket stove, right? Like I've attempted that before, and I can see the efficiency of it because and stuff like that. Because you're releasing heat, but in a controlled way, so you can, boil that water, heat up the food, or whatever, right? If that makes any sense. I hope that actually does make sense. Because I've been thinking about this a lot more. I'm just like, and stuff like that. Because the more time you get with that heat, it can warm you up, right? Like, don't get me wrong, you might have to be a little bit closer to it, but you can get, let's just say, a foot or two away from it and still feel the heat without getting burnt, right? Some sort of larger scale fire in terms of, let's say, 5 feet wide, right? You're not gonna be able to get that close to it. You probably maybe not. You're not. You're probably not gonna get 1, 2, 3 feet close to it because it's simply too hot. There's too much heat coming out, right? And let's just say it's in a circle, right? If you have people all the way around the circle, yeah, everyone's gonna get some heat, right? But if you're just a single person, 2, 3 at most, right? Hey, we're all sitting on this one side, right? All the heat from the opposite side of where you would be, right? Because fire's really radiating heat out for radiation, as in heat, as in light, right? And convection, right, from the top, right? So a lot of that heat that could be going towards you is going literally just out in thin air, right? You're heating up a spot that doesn't even need it, right? If that makes any sense. I think, I think a good balance may be like a long fire, right? Because usually it's skinnier but long, right? So you get the flames along the edge, a long line of it. Let's just say, if you're 5 foot, we'll just use 5 foot just because it's a round number. But I've made those before. Yeah, they are warm, right? And you can still do things with it, and it doesn't consume a crazy amount of fuel or wood to maintain. Obviously, it still takes fuel, but I mean, it's not as hot as a bigger fire, but it's still warm, right? It's still warm enough. It's still hot enough to keep you warm and maybe be able to maintain that much longer period of time without, you know, if that makes any sense. Hey, Bobby. I appreciate it, Vanessa. What's up, Bobby? I'm like the only one that calls him by his full name. I don't know. Bob, I used to know someone by that name. That's why when I was younger. So like I used to always really call him Bobby anyways. So I'm just kind of, you know. And the thing is, I actually used to have another follower named Bob too. I haven't seen them around. They live down in, I think, in the southeastern part of the U.S. I haven't heard from them for a while. So, you know, having you around kind of reminds me though at times. And then, you know, you're special yourself, Bob. That's the only time I'll ever say that. Yeah. But, you know, because I was just thinking, I'm like, anyways, I think I'll go away from the spider thing for a little bit. I just wanted to kind of get that off my chest and say a few things, but yeah. So, yeah, I mean, instead of burning that 6-inch by 6-inch wide by 6-inch tall long piece of wood and liberating the heat out in like 1 minute, I get maybe like, let's say if it was a Swedish fire torch or something along the lines of that, maybe able to get that to keep going for, let's say, an hour or something like that, right? You know, yeah, I don't feel a lot of heat for 1 minute or something that's like, let's say, half the heat output, but much longer. All right. In the winter, I think I know what my choice would be. Something more that can last longer, right? But still provide enough heat to, you know, overcome the cold or whatever, right? And besides, I'd be able to use it for other things too, right? Because it's longer lasting, not just a minute, but an hour. That means I can warm up water. That means I can warm up thermal mass like water or stones to indirectly use that fire to keep warm with, right? In the same way that I've made charcoal in the sun, right? Indirectly use sunshine to create fire with, right? Basically in the same way, right? Because I've been trying this out at a small scale, right? I mean, like, yes, this makes more sense, right? Because, like, for me, like, like, don't get me wrong, I've had campfires and all that stuff, right? Whatever. But I'm remembering this one time where it was a school-related event, right? It was a camp out or whatever, right? Our gym, like, the next, like, we got there, let's say we got there on Friday night, right? Because it was an over weekend thing. Because this is during the school season, right? So we couldn't miss school, so we camped out over a weekend, right? It wasn't one of these things. I still remember it, right? Pre-done log cabins, activities, and all that stuff, right? There was a dish for firewood, right? Our like, I didn't add more firewood in, but like I was staying warm with it, right? But our gym teacher got so mad at us, or not as the group, as students as a whole, because he's like, because a lot of people put in so much firewood, right? Yet we're taking off on this area in like the next 10 minutes, right? So basically, all that wood isn't doing anything for anyone. It's not helping anyone. Right? We don't need to see. You see, it's not dark out because it's daylight in the morning, right? No one's heating food over it. No one's keeping warm over it. No one's boiling water for it, right? There's no mosquitoes or bugs because actually this was in September, right? So like, I'm remembering that too now, and just like, yeah, right? Because if you're injured or whatever, and you can only get so much firewood at a time, right? I think you want something efficient, right? So you're making every bundle count that you can get, right? Versus just up in smoke. Anyways, yeah. Oh, really? I didn't realize you did that, Iron Fires. You were surprised how your paint can filled with lard and fruit candles and made coffee too? Oh, wow. Yeah, I think if you look at it like that, like, I think you realize that it's just like, it's but like, it's just like how I've said before, like, uh, when I mentioned the bellows to you, Bob, right? Of course I remember the videos too, right? It's just like because it's more efficient, you get more heat out of it, right? I mean, like if you need the smoke from a fire because of the bugs, that's one thing, right? But if you're actually trying to like do something with it, let's say cook something, boil some water, right? I don't need the smoke's not yeah. There's a little bit of heat with it, but it's not a it's an incomplete combustion process, right? So I'm like, you know, let's just say you're waiting for coffee, right? I don't want to wait forever for coffee. Right? I'm like, I want efficiently to doing it, so I can keep going, right? With minimal fuel as possible, right? Or at least just enough to get it done, right? Or whatever, right? So like, I try to keep that in mind whenever possible now. So it's starting to make a lot more sense, especially if you actually have to source out the fuel too, and walk, and gather it, and bring it back. Right? That's a lot of energy to bring it back. Right? I'm not talking about like bringing back like kindling or tinder. Right? That's usually lightweight because you try to pick up stuff that's not wet, right? And stuff like that, and you're not bringing a big log for kindling, right? But if you're starting to bring back fuel sources for it, right? That stuff starts to get a little bit heavier, right? You have to, I mean, I remember being at a campsite where I had to, I, I brought back the stump, but I had to travel, let's say, in terms of like, let's just say maybe about, it seemed like 3 blocks worth of distance, right? An average, right? But the thing is, this was like a 20-pound stump. Or it felt like that, right? So I'm using energy to bring this back, right? And if it was in the middle of the winter, which it wasn't, right? I don't want to be sweating trying to bring this back, getting cold from that, and then still have to ignite it out, still have to wait for it to, start and all that, just to get back some of that heat or warmth that I'm lost because I had to go search for it or bring it back, if that makes any sense. Uh, I'm just reading what Iron Firehorse wrote. Usually just stick it in the fireplace for a late at night. But it actually worked when you needed it. It worked when it was 6 Celsius, about 42-ish Fahrenheit. 42, 45-ish. Yeah. Well, I mean, Iron Force, you gotta remember, the greater the temperature differences, right? Yeah, the faster it is, right? The faster it's just. Oh, of course, surface area too. It's just like how you can throw if it's cold enough. Let's say minus 22 Fahrenheit, or around that temperature, minus 30 Celsius. That whole hey, I can throw hot water in boiling water in the air, and it'll freeze before it hits the ground, right? Well, it's got to be cold enough because the temperature difference is so great, right? And obviously, the way you do it is you get it so you increase the surface area of that boiling water, so so like it loses the heat really fast, right? Like, and that's how you see it from. It's from water, and then literally just changes into like steam, or a cloud or whatever, right? So yeah. I mean, that's the same. That reminds me of like clothing, right? Shelter elements, which are important too, right? Where you know, you know, let's just say you got gloves or mitts, right? They can, you've dried them out, let's say in 10 Fahrenheit, sorry, minus 10 Celsius, 14 Fahrenheit weather, right? Well, is that same thing then be able to handle 0 Fahrenheit, minus 17 Celsius, and so forth, right? Because I rather know that maybe I need to dip into something else or add in another layer into it, right? And that's just because it works at this temperature, well, you know, that's not the lowest it gets, all right? You know, for example, in terms of winter, like, I mean, there was times already this year where I could go out without mitts or gloves, right? If I was going for a walk, because like relatively it wasn't even that bad, right? I stick my hands in my pocket for a minute, I'm good again, that kind of thing, right? Now, obviously, if I was going long distance, I wasn't gonna come back to a shelter, not shelter, but like a home, warm environment for a long period of time. Yeah, I would still bring them anyways, just so I would have that gear, that option available, right? you know, but if I was just talking to, let's say, a neighbor or whatever, I didn't quite need that, right? Today, not quite one of those days, right? Like, it's a little nippy out, even though it's sunny out right now. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I'm fireworks, but I mean, like, there's a tolerance to it too, right? There's a tolerance to it too, right? I mean, like, people have, I think I've heard this from two different people at times, right? Right? And one of them's female and one of them is male, right? They don't know each other, but they're like, "Hey, CR, yeah," because I was helping them. This is during the winter. This is actually this season, like the 2025-2026 winter season, where I was helping them and doing all this stuff, right? Snow removal, all this stuff, right? And it's like, I don't know, minus 24 Celsius, minus 11, 12 Fahrenheit, give or take, or whatever. Yeah. Something along the lines of that for a temperature, right? And they're like, CR, yeah? Aren't you cold? And I said to them, I'm like, no, not really. I'm still good. And they're like, really? Aren't you cold, man? You've been out here for a while or whatever, right? And, because they don't see me moving a lot or whatever, right? Or just standing for a little bit, right? And it's because I told them, I'm like, no, because I'm dressed for walking or standing, not being in, let's say, a warm vehicle, warm truck, or whatever along the lines of that, right? Transportation, whatever, right? Or I'm not biking, right? So, like, I'm just walking, so I need, I'm not generating that much metabolic heat in terms of via activity, right? So I gotta hold the heat that I'm generating through, metabolic heat. Just, at rest, right, as they say, right? Even before I pick up a shovel, pick up any pile of snow, or move any snow, right? You know, while some people, they had to go back inside or go to their vehicle or whatever, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, I do have my tolerances too for cold. I also have my upper limit, and at times I gotta remember, it's just like, yeah, maybe I should bring somebody else out, right? Like, like sometimes I wonder, like, maybe I should do some of these other things I've tried in the past again. I mean, I have minus 24, minus 11 Fahrenheit. I have stuck my hands in ice cold water in that temperature, down up to my forearm. more or less. I've shown it in video, right? I was just like, I haven't done that since. I actually, correction, I did do it once again when it was slightly below freezing, and I was attempting to do like I scrapped the footage because I failed miserably about it. But like literally, I I the temperature was warmer or less cold, but I increased the difficulty by putting in salt into that water, mixing in some snow, longer duration, and I was trying to start charcloth, and that was a fail because I got the charcloth wet by accident. I was like, never mind. That was a total fail on that, right? I went maybe I bit too much, or that was a little too much, right? But I didn't went for that again. I was just like, oh yeah, this feeling of the cold, right? You know, that's why when you see me like just squeezing it in my hand earlier, I'm not saying that was nothing, or I'm not, you know, I wouldn't necessarily do that when I'm just walking for hours and hours or outside for hours and hours, right? I wouldn't do that. I would stay dry, right? But in terms of like understanding, you know, the cold, right? Like I've had frostnip, right? Mild, and I say mild frostbite, right? At times, especially on my thumb, right? But I realized that, you know, yeah, this is probably something I should not climatize to or get used to, but understand that it happens and how much of it can I tolerate before, you know, hey, maybe I need to up my game a little bit more. Maybe I should put on an extra layer here, put an extra pair of mitts on, or whatever, or put on that extra ski pants on, right? Where I realize, okay, I've experienced this before, and I remember how cold it is, and I'm gonna be outside for longer. Yeah, I'm gonna have to up my game. I'm gonna have to do something like, let's say, move around, you know, generate some metabolic heat. Not sweat, but generate metabolic heat. Yes. Yes, that too. Yes, it was the frozen hand fire challenge. Fires. Alright. Like, I saw it, right? I was just like, people were doing it inside, like some people were doing it outside. Some people did a full submersion. I decided to kind of like simulate something more realistically happening here in terms of, hey, I gotta, my hands are wet. It's cold out, right? Like when I first started, well, you can hear it in the video, right? I'm just woo, right, and then I start. I wouldn't say used to it, but the pins and needles effect, I started to feel that, right? It felt like for not having frostbite, quote unquote frostbite, like where it burns, right? That's the cold one of the coldest times I've had my hands, right? And this is also including like this other time where I tried to tie knots because another challenge I did, where I'm tying the tumble hitch and the Fairmont friction hitch in -57 Celsius. But that's, I mean, and I'm touching metal too, right? So like, I was just like, you know, but remember these are very short duration, right? Couple minutes at most, right? But the hand submerging thing, that was a couple minutes, and a couple minutes after the like, because I was trying to strike a very mini ferrocerium rod, some and indirectly heat up one of my hot candles, right? Similar to what Iron Fire Force said about the crystalline candles and all that stuff, something similar to that, right? And yeah, you could see me. Cedar's warming up his hands, right? Like I've said before, what one thing I didn't mention is it took me an hour afterwards back inside to get my hands back into back to a normal state, right? Like during the video, you could see me trying, and I say trying, Like I had to put some effort into it, doing the pinky thumb dexterity thing, right? If you can't touch your pinky or your thumb, you're losing dexterity, right? Or if you have to really, really try it, yeah, you're losing dexterity. Your hands are getting too cold, right? You're losing the feeling, right? Yeah, yeah. That's more. I'm like, yep, that thing that they say, the longer you've been cold, the longer it takes to warm up back up. I'm like, yep, all right, you know. So, I mean, I mean, I'm not saying I'm gonna ever do like a whole full body submersion or whatever because that's a lot of risk, right? That's a lot of risk. I would need a safety net and not I. That's something I'm gonna do alone, right? I just wanted to simulate something, get a sense of it, but I had a safety net, right? Of things, right? Because I realized that if I had to do it again with less of a safety net, I'm outside or whatever, right? I would have to like definitely warm up my hands much longer, right? Let's just say I don't have the convenience of walking back in a whole warm environment, right? A heated environment. I'm gonna have to like, you know, you know, try to warm up my hands, put some gloves, mitts on. Well, and maybe even use body temperature to warm up my hands or whatever, right? I've put my hands underneath my armpits before, right? Just to warm up my thumb before, right? I've had to actually do that. So it was like, minus 30 Celsius out, minus 22 Fahrenheit out, and I'm outside biking in minus 30 Celsius. Right? Your hand gets cold because you're not actively moving it. Your legs stay warm because you're actively pedaling, but your hands, nope. Your hands get cold. I had multiple layers on. My foam still got cold. Like, so I mean, at times I would have to pull over just to warm up my thumb, just get some dexterity back into it. All right, it's starting to burn a little. Like, it's starting to hurt. Right. I'm like, yeah. So I've done that before, right? I mean, don't get. I actually have put my hand in someone else's armpit underneath their over top of their clothes, but I've had to do that before, right? And they understand, right? Because frostbite hurts. Around some relief, however it comes or arrives to you, is gonna be nice, right? So I wasn't gonna be picky, right? And I wouldn't judge anyone that actually had to do that, right? Use body heat or whatever to help someone out. I mean, like, you know, I've done it myself. I'll do it myself too, right? I know, you know, me complaining about it or me starting to warm it back up or warm my hands back up is more important than my pride of, this seems weird. Or whatever, right? Your hands were stiff by the time I collected Tinder and set up. I pulled your later out and threw it in front of my. I could just you just pull it out of your pocket and it just slips out your hand and that's the next thing you know, right? And the thing is, if it slipped out of your pocket, it probably hit the snow and means that the wheel's wet. Probably too, right? You probably got the wheel part at least wet or somewhat. Like, yeah, you can blow it back, blow the water out, and try to warm it back up with body heat. All right. I've never done that. You did it for your kids, wow. Hmm. But yeah, I was just like, I've never quite done that yet. I think, I think if I ever, I shouldn't say want, but ever did attempt that, I think I would go halfway first and maybe start with feet, right? That's why I started with my hands first, right? Maybe next time I do this, maybe I'll do it with my feet. Maybe not at minus 24 Celsius, minus 11 Fahrenheit. Because I've realized that my feet get cold easily and it can hurt. And yes, because I've tried this air experiment out, and I also realized that yes, it is gonna be my feet. It was my feet during that time that got cold first that made me like it was just simply I was just outside with a safety net, right? Because I was experimenting, I was trying something out, right? I didn't want to be careless and put myself in a situation that I couldn't get myself out of without safety net, right? But I wanted to experience it, and I realized, yeah, every other part of my body is warm except for my feet. All right, so like, yeah, I don't. Oh my, I feel like I could feel the pins and needles already if I did that with my feet. Oh my, but yeah, but unfortunately, I decided to scrap that video too. It was a total fail, right? And then this is without a heat source. The only thing I'm using is insulation clothing cover elements, right? And this is at 10 Fahrenheit, 10 Celsius, 14 Fahrenheit, right? And that's for hours, not just for 10 minutes, not just a couple minutes in that, like the hot hand, extreme cold water hand challenge or whatever that I named it, right? You know, that's a lot longer. And it was my feet, you know? I was just like, every other part of my body was warm except for my feet. And like, you realize in the winter, at least I know I realize it's just like, you know, you don't think about what's the warmest part on your body while you're bundled up. The only thing you think of is, oh, my nose is cold, my eyebrows cold, my feet are getting cold. That's the only thing you think about, because it's the only thing on your mind, right? It's just like, you know, your core body temperature is still relatively high, but it's just like, I think I'm getting frostbite on my toe or my thumb or whatever, right? So now since then I've had some other things that I can use now, but I haven't tried to repeat that since. Oh, you mean that Iron Fire Horse? Oh, I see. So, I mean, hey, right? Like, and then be like, oh, no one does, or I'd be like, no, this what's more important right now, right? A little bit of pride, especially if no one's looking, right? Or hey, you don't feel more comfortable. Your hands don't warm back up. You don't have some sensation. You're not feel so much the burning sensation because you're trying to warm up frostbite, a frostbitten area, right? You know, like when I was on the road doing it because I was biking, I just got it up warm enough where I could feel it again, right? Not totally thawed out, right? I wasn't trying to get it back all the way back up because I was only halfway through. I was only halfway there. I saw there like 45 minutes at least of time, right? So I was just like, yeah, this is probably still not occur, right? So just enough to cut the edge off and then keep going, right? Shake my, you know, warm up my thumb because actually that was the part that I actually had to warm up that caused me to pull over because I'm like, I can't take this anymore. I gotta do something, right. Like this is why lately you in the last couple of years you've seen me do these certain winter projects in terms of sewing and stuff like that. Boots, extremities, right? Boots, gloves, mitts, right? Because I'm like, like I'm trying to mitigate that kind of stuff that I've experienced before. I'm like, that was so discomfortable, not comfortable. All right, like I could do it again, but maybe this time around or the next time I do it, I'll be a little bit smarter, a little bit more experienced, and realize that yeah, in the first 10 minutes it was fine, and then it's just like that 45 minute mark, half an hour mark, I started to notice it more and more. Right. Oh, okay, I see. Iron Fire Horse. But yeah, I mean, you know what? I got an idea. Maybe. Now I feel like randomly doing it, but I'm like, no, maybe I should just randomly do it. And besides, I don't have the tripod out right now, and I don't want to hold my camera up there too long. But yeah, this is just making it like, well, I could just stick my hands in the snow right now. Right. I don't know if I will really want to do that right now. That's no. And you know what's funny, Iron Farmers? I've said this earlier, but I forgot to put these away. They're still sitting in the room. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to put this away. I should probably put the ski pants away before I forget. Before I forget. So that is what I'm gonna do right here. Actually, they're right now. Yeah. And put these away here. I haven't had these for this long, for that long, right? They are useful though, right? I've even been trying out some other things lately that, you know, are options, right? That I can uh, re- refer or dip into. Because, you know, I was, ever since the Texas freeze of 2021, right? Because I remember talking to Second Star Survival, because he lives in that state, right? And with Matt, right? And, you know, he told me that, you know, he's like, yes, that would be a great idea, but they don't have that down there, right? And I was just like, because I'm used to what's available here, right? So I'm like, oh, what? You know, they're more, people are were more likely to see a t-shirt than a sweater, right? More likely to see shorts than a hoodie. Maybe not a hoodie, but like than a winter jacket, right? So like, you know, if you think about it like that, ski pants, right? like unless you were one of those people that came from a different state or area that had snow, or you're one of those people that, hey, I have this extra winter gear. I live here in Texas. It's hot a lot of the time, but sometimes I go into the mountains to go skiing, right? So you would have that gear, right? Unless you had that stuff already, right? You were gonna be cold. And yeah, I get that campfire, propane heat, and all that stuff, right? But you know, if you're if you're losing more heat than you're generating, you're gonna get cold, right? It's as simple as that, right? If you're losing more heat than you're generating or gaining back, you will feel cold. You will start feeling cold, right? You know, depends how much of the heat loss that you have, and like in time, right? Maybe not in the first hour or 10 minutes or whatever, but 3 hours, you might start to notice that a lot more, right? Because you're starting to notice that little bit of heat loss that you're losing 1%, but now it's starting to add up, right? Because you've been outside longer, right? Just like this air story I mentioned earlier. You're talking about the ski pants, right? Iron Farmers? You're talking about the ski pants, I'm assuming, right? Alright, well, looks like I should put these ski pants back. Like I said, I have some bigger ones. I've also tried them out a little bit, you know. But it's like I said, it actually has to be actually cold for me to try it out. It's the only way. Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So now I have a, 2 is 1, 1 is none, right? Well, I got 2, and I also have other options too, right? To keep my legs warm, you know, knees, legs, thighs warm, right? I have other options, right? And I'm not just talking about like long johns, for example. I do have this other option. I've been testing out too. It's like halfway. It's like a halfway thing. Once I explain it, you would understand it better. But I was just trying something out and seeing, right? Because like I'm trying to remember what the exact. I know it was like what had to be at least 14 Fahrenheit minus 10 during that time for them, right? In Texas during 2021, right? More or less, right? So like, and you're not gonna find ski pants, right? Maybe at best, people had like some like sleepwear that they had when they go to bed or whatever, right? So they would put that underneath, right? But like if you didn't even have that too, because you can't find it in your size, right? Is there another option? At least to keep your legs warm, right? And let's just say you do have a pair of pants, right? So, there's something else I've been trying out, but I mean it was helping, and I do notice a difference, but would it help other people? Right? No. I guess I'll just have to wait. Just have to wait and see. As I put my ski pants back away here. There's probably one. Well, actually, I can tell the difference. One of them is a little bit thicker, a little bit heavier, and a little bit taller, a little bit wider, and all that stuff. So I can tell the difference. But like, when I tried them both out, right, I can't tell the difference if one is warmer than the other one. They're warm, but I can tell if one's better. So I'm gauging it by like characteristics, like, hey, do I have pockets or whatever, right? And some other little things, right? Because unfortunately, since 2021, or was it 2020? Well, 1 to 2 years. It actually hasn't been cold enough out yet. I know I'm saying that, but like, yeah, I did see minus 30, minus 22 Fahrenheit, right? But I wasn't seeing the crazy cold that I saw those 2 years because there was this 1 year where I walked over to a friend's place during Super Bowl weekend. I think it was February. I'm pretty sure it was February. Early February, late January, whatever. But I walked over, and it's about, let's just say, at least half an hour walk. At least, right? But the temperature was like minus 39 Celsius, though. Man, let's just say minus 40 for a round number, right? Because there was some wind outside, right? I didn't have these ski pants at that time, right? So I wore a second pair of pants, right? It did help, right? And I realized even with a second pair of pants, there were certain areas where I could feel the cold, right? I was just like, I need that to happen again so I can try it with the ski pants and notice the difference, if that makes any sense, right? Because that was the same time where I've said, and I'll say this again, if you ever hear me say that I'm wearing 5 or 6 layers, that's when I know it. That's when it's cold for me, unless, relatively speaking, all right? Unless I'm going out for long periods of time or whatever, right? Like, I'm talking about hours and hours, 4 or 6 hours, right? Not just half an hour walking minus 40, right? Yeah, a little bit different, right? Like, if it's minus 20 and I'm outside for 4 or 6 hours overnight or whatever, I want to bring a little bit more, right? Because exposure is going to be longer. It's not just half an hour, right? But during that time when I went to walk over to a friend's place, right? And they're looking at me like, you walked over? Aren't you cold? And then they just see me like taking off layer after layer after layer after layer after layer after layer of clothing. They're like, never mind, CR. If you wore that much, you weren't that cold. Like, I'm not saying it wasn't cold, but I wasn't, like, Like it was cold. Don't get me wrong, it was cold, but I had enough warmth that it wasn't that bad. Right? It wasn't that bad, and it wasn't that long. Right? Like I was wearing. I think I actually. I actually, yeah, I actually did wear like 5 or 6 layers. I'm talking about like core, like torso wise, right? I'm not wearing 5 or 6 layers on like feet, hands, and headgear, right? Usually that tops off at like 3 or 4 at most, because there's not enough room. I don't, or I can't, I can put maybe 2 socks on, right? Maybe even have a winter boot on, but I'm not like putting 3 or 4 socks on trying to squeeze into that boot, right? Because it's not cut off circulation because it's too much, right? I have too much, right? And my feet are then get cold because I've got the circulation off. The extra insulation's not done to help me that much more if it's constricting my blood flow, right? Like an onion, yeah. Yeah, like I said, 5 or 6 layers. Iron Fire Horse. So I was just like, I mean, for what it was, I was warmed up for what that was, right? And that was before the video where I started to make these things during winter or during the time, right? This is before the really big mitts that I made. This is before the mitts I've made from gloves and all that stuff, right? So, and it hasn't been that cold for a while, right? So I haven't had a chance to repeat and try that experiment again with things I have now, right? And see if I can notice a difference, right? Because I've started to notice a little bit more and more where these little things that I've been doing in terms of like these resources I've been putting together to create something, mitts, gloves, along the lines of that or whatever, right? I've realized that these are really useful. Not just to have, but like the knowledge of sewing, the skill of sewing, and then applying it to this gear that's like, I'm putting it together, right? And I realized like there was a lot of benefit. There is a lot of benefit to it because I'm experiencing it, gaining knowledge of it, and doing something new or different for me, right? In terms of problem solving of it, right? Because just like I said, how about the Texas freeze, right? Some people didn't have access to certain things that up here in Canada or during this time of year for me, it'd be like, hey, I could just go down to a store, even a dollar store, and get something like that, right? Where some people down there, they had to resort to other things, right? That's why I was using different materials, different things, right? And this is why I showed in that other video last 2020, early 2025 in February or whatever, right? Where I took basic dollar store like gloves and transformed them, right, into something a little bit better, a little bit more, Are they bulletproof or whatever? No, but I have more than one layer on, technically, right? I've even since the video and the adjustments I made or enhancements I made in that video, I've actually did something else. I tried something else out, and I'm still trying to, I shouldn't say upgrade, but I enhanced it. More insulation, right? But it's still based on, like, I don't know if I have it, I don't know if I have it out right now. I might still actually have it out. Maybe I can, sorry, hasn't been that cold, so I might have put them away, but, like, I've actually worn a version of one, right? And they weren't even that thick in terms of the material, but the insulation was thicker. And I was wearing them in like below minus 17, 0 Fahrenheit. I still, right? To the point where I was helping someone out shoveling snow, right? And I was out there for a bit, right? They had to go warm up their hands, right? And I was like, usually my hands get cold, right? It's just the way I am, right? Extremities, right? Stuff like that. Feet, hands, right? That's why I have to wear stuff, right? But, like, they're like, oh, yeah, see, my hands are getting cold. And I'm like, really? All right? Because I was like, I was outside for, like, at least an hour, right? And their hands are getting cold, like, and I could see them working we're doing this activity, right? With snow, right? I felt their hands, I'm like, oh, wow. Usually my hands are like that, right? So, but I was wearing the modified mitts that I made. I'm like, well, this is not very scientific, but I'm like, this is a result anyways, right? Or something I can notice anyways, if that makes any sense. Yeah. Ah, I see. Yeah. Experience of it, right? Once bitten, twice shy, that kind of thing. Not saying, right? It's the thing. If you think about it, it's just like, because now you know better, right? And I also know better too, all right? Because like, I was just like, I have this friend, right, who will remain nameless at this moment, but let's just say I've heard twice this decade already, as in like the last 6 years, 5 maybe, where they've told me twice now that that they got their hands cold. Maybe even frost. Well, actually, because the one time I was with them, so I know it was from frostbite, right? But the first time I've seen this, because I was with them, right? We were going to the exact same place, exact same duration, exact same temperature, right? It was about minus 11 Fahrenheit, minus 24, 25 Celsius, right? In the evening, right? They wanted to go to a store to pick up something, and stuff like that, right? And the distance, let's just say, was maybe, I don't know, 5 blocks, right? All right. Now, remember, I planned for this. I dressed for the, I had extra little things I had with me, right? So I wore, I dressed for the weather, dressed for the walk, right? Not dressed for being in a vehicle or whatever, or being in a store, or having, let's say, hand warmers or heat source like that available, right? So I was dressed for cold, a little bit more, right? So at that temperature, I had mini mitts, my smaller mitts, and some gloves on, right? Amongst my other things I had on, right? A buff or whatever, right? And stuff like that. The winter jacket and stuff like that, right? Well, my friend, initially, when we got to the store, he went inside, right? Let's say about 5 minutes, 7 minutes, right? I actually stayed outside. I could have went inside and warmed up or whatever, right? But the reason I actually didn't go inside, I could have, right? Don't get me wrong, right? I was testing something out, and not only that, I wasn't even actually cold yet, right? If I'm cold, yeah, I'm gonna do something, right? But I wasn't at that state yet, right? Because I was dressed for the weather. I was dressed for the walk, right? I had layers on, insulation, things holding my heat closer to me, and not just randomly heating up the minus 24 Celsius air or -1 Fahrenheit air, right? By the time we got back to my friend's place, right? Because he didn't cover his face, their face for the cold, right? I'm pretty sure, because it took them another 10 minutes, maybe even 15 minutes inside in a warm environment. So in a home, room temperature, to get back into that normal state again. While I was fine. I was completely fine. I could have went back outside. That kind of thing, right? You know, that that little bit of like, a little bit of extra cover can help, minimize that frostbite pain or the hassle of spending an extra 15 minutes to warm up your face because you have frost nipple or a frostbite on your face or nose, face, cheek, whatever, right? And it hurts. And I'm like, yeah, I've experienced that before. Times too. My thumb or whatever, right? And yeah, it does kind of hurt. Yeah, maybe, I don't know, Iron Fires. Maybe it was like that to them. I don't know. Like, I was just like, right? I did manage to get them some gloves. Because initially, I will say this, they were using a very poor, they were basically using gardening gloves and socks. The socks, it acts like a onesie, right? This is actually where I got the idea to reuse socks for, right? But after that, I gave them a pair of gloves to use, right? What I did hear this season, that something happened again, or whatever, I'm like, I didn't ask them what happened to the gloves, but I'm like, clearly they didn't have the gloves or that with them, because I'm pretty sure, like, because the gloves were a little bit bigger on me, so that's why I gave them away, because they have bigger hands than me, but, like, that should have been able to handle that temperature, at least, relatively speaking. Maybe not warm, super warm, but at least enough that you're not getting cold or frostbite, at least, right? So, I mean, it's one thing that, yeah, it's cold outside, but it's also another thing to, oh, hey, I forgot to bring my gloves and mitts and hat, and now I'm complaining about it like 20 minutes later. Just saying, right? It's just one of those things. I mean, like, yeah. Oh, really, Iron Fires? I didn't realize that. Dang. I remember someone else talking about frostbite or nip on their ears, right? That's why a lot of the times I'll wear a hat or at least a buff to cover my ears, right? Because, yeah, I don't think I want to feel that, right? Like, this is why you saw me make that buff from a shirt, and, like, literally, like, a couple videos later, you see me walking with it. Now, I pushed that, actually, to an actual limit at that time, because that's like it was like a 3-hour walk in -2 Fahrenheit weather. Walking. And, at that time, the grid's up, right? I could have walked into any store and warmed up, right? If I had to, like if it was super cold or whatever, yeah, I could have, right? But I wasn't that bad yet. I wanted to see for myself, right? Like, don't get me wrong. I know my nose probably looked cold, red, and all that stuff. I know I saw that in my comment section, right? But I wanted to see the upper limit of it, right? Now I know it's like, yeah, that's the upper limit. If it's that cold, I might need a little bit more of thicker here. Not quite just buff, right? But the buff did help, well, more than just bare skin, right? But not as warm as, let's say, an actual winter version of one, if that makes any sense, right? I mean, some of this are information that I've seen or heard out there, especially on YT or whatever. I'm especially about winter. I'm actually trying to adapt the information in and try it myself, and understand it myself, right? Like I have this air setup now. Ever since I watched this one video from Dave Canterbury, he showed this one video where he also piggybacked on another video from someone else. So I guess I can piggyback on this, right? But I was just like, I've actually adapted what I saw, the information that was presented, to the gear and the location I'm at, because I was just like, wait a second, I can see winter too. I can see cold temperatures like that too, right? So I'm like, and I already had the gear. All I had to do was modify it so I would actually use it, right? I had it. I just didn't use it because I didn't like this certain little functionality of it, right? But once I modified it, boom, I want to use it all the time now. Wow, it seemed like all the time now because now it's functional again, not just aesthetically pleasing. It's actually like useful, right? I've actually worn it several times now, and I was like, yeah. Back in December, when I was away, I was actually away for a little bit, and like I was helping people shovel and all that stuff. It was around -1 Fahrenheit, -24 Celsius, more or less, right? Give or take, right? I was wearing something similar to what Dave showed, a little bit more than that, but basically I was just like, I was warm, like, because it was around my head, right? So basically my ears, cheek were warm. Yeah, my nose was a little bit cold, granted, right? And I wore glasses, right? But outside of that, I was good, right? Because people, like I said, the people I was helping shovel, because I know them, right? They were like asking me, like, "Hey, see, aren't you cold, man?" I'm like, "No, I dressed for the walk, right? I dressed for a walk, not to be in a vehicle or in a warm environment, you know? Or let's say public transit, train, bus, whatever, right? I was dressed for being outside, not being in a garage or being, just stepping outside for a moment or shoveling the snow, right? I was actually dressed for being outside, gonna be outside for at least an hour, right? You forgot about him. I see. Dang, Iron Fire Horse. Dang. Alright, Iron Fire Horse, you gotta give me 1 sec here. I gotta use the washroom because that coffee I had earlier is going through me, and I am clearly not going to bring you guys along because that would be weird and embarrassing, and I'm gonna make sure that I close the door behind me so you don't hear it because I'm not outside and that just sound weird. Okay, Iron Fire Horse. Well, nothing spells relief like doing that. Yeah. Well, yeah, that too. I could walk outside and be like, oh yeah, you're just hearing a waterfall from outside. But you guys would be like, CR, didn't you say it was really cold? How the hell is it melting? And I'd be like, oh, damn, I got busted, guys. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like I said, in the last little bit, I've tried to reorganize it a little bit more. Because I realized I'm like, this winter stuff Like, I'm specifically talking about this type of cover right now, but, like, you know, you can apply it for other areas too of preparedness. But, because for me, you know, this is one of the top reasons, anyways, that I prepare. One of the top reasons, because it's one of those things that I see, have to experience, deal with in a year, in a calendar year, right? And sometimes it feels like, you know, half the year. Okay, maybe not half the year, but it seems like a third or 5 months worth, right? November, December, January, February, and parts of October and March. You know, at that time, right? Basically, after the first day of fall until the first day of spring. Kind of deal, right? So, that's why I've been trying to improve on it a little bit more as much as possible. Because I realize, yeah, this will be important. And some other things, too, that I've actually tried to do, too. Like, I can, let me actually, that closet I have here. Let's see, where is it here? Well, here's my wool mitts I have. I mean, because I've actually decided to take the... when I was just saying it to people, I said it as spring cleaning, but it's not quite exactly. It's more like I'm doing before spring, late winter organization. For cleaning up. Well, cleaning up and organization, because I was just like, because after like, it's March now, right? I actually did that like last month and the month before, right? I was just thinking to myself, like, what am I really using during the year, right? What things are really, you know, I need to have this because it's just that warm. It's just that useful, right? You know? And what things work well together, right? Like, so, like, things like a buff, yeah, it's gonna be like, yeah, I can add that on basically onto anything, right? I can basically add that on to anything what I have on, right? But something like, let's say, a really, really warm, really, 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 really warm hat, I might not necessarily need it at -5 and sunny, right? But I'm pretty sure I would like to have something similar or like that, as warm as that, when it's -30, -22 Fahrenheit, for example. So, you know, I've been trying to, you know, have that range, because actually I need that temperature range. You know, today it's, let's see, just below -10 Celsius, 14 Fahrenheit, right? It's sunny. It doesn't feel like, it feels colder than it seems, even though there's not much wind. I think it's just because dark the air, but, you know, I like temperature like this, so I'm like, maybe I want a little bit more. Let's say if I was going for a walk or whatever, right? Going for a walk right now, for example, or spending time outside or whatever, right? I probably want a little bit more, you know. Layer up a little. I can always take off layers, right? But I can't put on layers or clothing that I do not have on me or with me. On me or with me, like in a bag or whatever, right? So that's one of the things I've been trying to do. I actually reorganized this in a certain way, too. You know, where I've put some of this extra stuff out for you. Yeah, so yeah, it's slightly less cold for you, Iron Fire. Slightly less cold for you. Slightly, alright? Also, it's already... Yeah, it's already dark there, yeah. Because it's past 5 Pacific or 8 Eastern, so yes, the sun has already set. The sun has already gone down out east. The sun will eventually start to set out west here soon, so. And I'm pretty sure, because I'm under this influence of Arctic high pressure system, the skies are going to be clear tonight which means it's not feel cold. At least for this time of year. I'm not saying it's -30, but it's still cold for this time of year, right? You know, usually around this time of year, I'm expecting to see a daytime high closer to the freezing mark, closer to 32 Fahrenheit. Overnight temperature, let's say 14 Fahrenheit, -10 Celsius, right? I'm not even seeing -10, 14 Fahrenheit today, right? So, like, the daytime high is not even that high. You know, where I'm seeing, like, -2, -4 Fahrenheit, -20 Celsius this morning, right? Yeah, it's cold for this time of year. Yeah, exactly, Iron Firehorse. But yeah, so that's one thing I've been doing is resorting some of the stuff out. Sorry, I keep holding my closet here. I mean, some of this other stuff here. Put this out of the way. Wait. I wonder what this is. I've shown this before too. Sorry, don't. Yeah, see, I've shown these before too. And I remember exactly. I remember who actually saw this video. Uncle Al saw this video. I know he did. He said interesting. I'm like, yeah. Okay, something I had on. I started before doing some of the art projects, right? Maybe I will bring them out right now. I have some other things too that I can dip into, right? All that stuff that you've seen me make, I still have parts of it, right? Maybe not necessarily all of it, but I do have parts of it. The jumbo mints, yeah, I have them in storage right now because I don't quite need them at this time, right? If it was snowing, wet snow, high wind chill, extreme cold, yeah, I would bring them back out, right? That's why I can't wait for the next time it actually gets real. Like, I'd say, quote unquote, super cold. I can try them out again and try them out at that temperature. Right. I'll say it wouldn't be the only thing I have on, but I would try it out, right? Just go for a simple walk, right? Have a safety net because I can return back home or whatever. I'm not like going into the middle of the woods or in the middle of the woods or out in the middle of nowhere or driving or whatever, biking for an hour or whatever, just to go somewhere road. Right? I just need to try this outside when it's actually cold. It could just be outside, right? I could just go for a walk. It doesn't even have to be far, right? But I need to actually do it while it's actually at that temperature because that's where I need to know if it's actually warm or not. With said gear or clothing, winter clothing or whatever, right? Is that hand or mitts? It's Mins with an extension. Iron Firehorse. It's Mins with an extension. Right? Because I was just trying something out, right? I've had them for a while, right? This is before I made the jumbo mints. This is before I did some other things, right? Like I said, because I showed that this year. I've had them since 2023. I just never showed it in video because I never took the time to record it while I was making it or modifying it, right? I just wanted to show you guys this year because I'm like, well, because I want to, right? So that's why it was like that, Iron Firehorse. So, but yeah, I mean, like, I even have something else too if I wanted to. I have some other things I can dip into too if I. What? And a lot of the stuff I still haven't even tried when it's like extremely cold. And I say extremely cold when I say extremely cold, I'm like, it's lower than even -30 Celsius or -22 Fahrenheit. Lower than that. Like that's why, because see, the thing is, I hear, oh, you know, and sometimes, not all the time, but at times in the preparedness, bushcrafting, survival community, so it's like, get a sleeping bag, get for the lowest temperature you expect to see, right? Well, yeah, minus 30s typically I'm not at least seen it at least a few times during the calendar year, right? But that's not the coldest it gets, right? And I know it gets colder, right? Hell, I've even done a live stream when it's been colder. Because I was actually at my friend's place and I went outside in that, and where it was like minus 33, minus 34, minus 35. And I wasn't out there for that long. But yeah, I had to warm back up as soon as I went back inside, right? Because I was like literally right outside, right? All I had to do was open up a door and walk back in. So like I knew, but I didn't, I had to put my hand underneath my armpit after, but I did warm it back up, right? But that was just, I was just BSing around. I wasn't taking it as seriously, right? But, if I was actually going for a walk, I wouldn't have worn what I just wore in that part, right? I would have put the air layers that I brought with me on, right? Because I think I took off my wool sweater or whatever, or something along the lines of that, and I didn't wear it underneath my jacket, so. Because it was so warm inside, right? I actually had to adjust how much heat I was holding back with the layers. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, it can work. That I do know. I mean, like, what is the real difference between a blanket, a cloak, a sleeping bag, right? I mean, it's the layering, it's the air pump, the trapped air. I mean, they go around you, below you, or whatever, right? As long as, I think, if you have options to hold dead airspace in terms of that kind of thing, and you tried it out and it keeps you warm, well, then yeah, right? I'm not saying, a single wool blanket's suffice at minus 30 Celsius, minus 22 Fahrenheit when you're outdoors, away from civilization, you're camping out, whatever. Yeah, you might need a little bit more than just that, right? And, it depends on the person, right? Some people run hot or some people run colder, right? I mean, I used to know when I was a kid, a friend's dad that used to wear shorts in the winter. I would see them shoveling snow with shorts on. Like, I'm not even exaggerating that, right? I don't know if they still do it. No, actually, I spoke to his son, who is my friend, right? He's like, yeah, dad, my dad still does that. Well, his dad still does that, right? I was like, oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly, right? You want something that can actually work for you. And not just work, but you've actually tried it out in a relatively similar conditions, right? And not assume, oh, yeah. Alright? It's just like assuming, like, oh, the rating, the scale, or the temperature rating on the sleeping bag is, like, set in stone, right? That's just... Really? That's just a number, right? I mean, like I said, some people run cold, some people run hotter, right? Some people have poor circulation, whatever, right? So, yeah. Like, where there's that comfort rating, the limit rating, then there's the survival rating, right? Well, go try it out and see, based on knowing the temperature, an actual temperature, the air temperature, right? 0 Fahrenheit, minus 17 Celsius, right? That's going to be different from minus 30 Celsius, minus 22 Fahrenheit, and that's going to be even different from, it's 20 Fahrenheit, minus 6 Celsius, right? Yeah, they're all below freezing, but one of them, two of them, and a little bit colder. I mean, it doesn't even include things like, conduction loss because you're laying down, wind, windshield and stuff like that, right? Because a lot of that stuff doesn't take that into consideration, right? Used to blanket that were, on each side and Poofy fell on, so it's really forward. Then my thick face Winnie the Pooh blanket over top. I don't know. I've also realized more and more that, yeah, come on. That those layers underneath you are as or even more important than the layers above you at times, right? I've started to notice that more and more. I'm like, I guess that makes sense. Conduction is actually conduction to the ground or the surface you're on, laying on, is faster heat loss a lot of the time. I shouldn't say more heat loss, but it's more consistent, right? It's all because you're directly touching the ground, right? Like, if it air's still, well, yeah, it's still air, right? If there's windshield, there's one windshield, right? Hey, what's up, Brooke? How's it going? Hey, have fun fishing. Hey, one of the first times I caught a fish was ice fishing. To be honest, so like, But yeah. And I just realized that I was charging batteries. I forgot about them. Because I was like, oh yeah. I guess I'll use up some of this battery bank I have, I guess. Because my battery's slowly going down more than I would like. You fold the first two in half like a sleeping bag, and then there are one over top. Yeah. So you have multiple layers, right? Trapped dead airspace, right? That holds back the heat that you're generating, right? So the ground, the air that's moving, the convection, don't just be like, hey, it's mine now, kind of thing, right? And you never see it again, right? It's easier to hold back heat than to try to generate more at times. It takes effort to generate heat, right? Even fire, right? Yeah, you can make a fire, but you have to set it up. You have to tend to it. You have to increase the surface area. You need tools, right? Right? And I'm not just talking about like a later or just a later or anything like that, right? You still need all that stuff. Yeah, and that can help too, right? Because, because you're holding some heat. Thermal mass, I guess, right? That's another thing I've been getting more into. Not in terms of large scale, but small scale, and just understanding it. That's just like, I've been trying it out. Now, like, no word of lie, I actually, they say, during I shouldn't say ancient times, but wait. Back then, right? People used to have their own stone and their own kind of that they would use, right? Well, I've actually started to have my own favorite stone now. I actually do. It's not with me right now, but I can get it. I actually do have a stone, by the way. I do have a warming stone. No. It's not that big, but it's just something else I've been trying out too, right? Because I went to try this stuff out. I'm like, this knowledge that I've been hearing about, right? I'll just check on the batteries. Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, I'm starting to pick up some power on this. I'll charge the rest later. I do have better batteries to dip into, so I don't need to fully charge them up. I need a battery bank though. Oh, yeah, that would suck. Yeah, I think one of those things. If I ever went ice fishing more or more consistently, I would try to remember not to fall for ice and realize that, like, like I said, I haven't done that full body submersion thing, but I don't know. I did pieces of it, anyways. Pieces of it. You know, is it the same thing? Not quite, right? In terms of scale, right? It's one thing for your hands to be wet and cold. It's totally different, right? Because also my core body temperature was still dry, right? But I don't know. I couldn't imagine doing that. What in the temperature I did it with for my hands, but whole body, right? Because a lot of the videos I saw people doing the full body, it was not that cold. They were doing it at that cold of a temperature, right? You know, air temperature and stuff like that, right? Yeah, perhaps iron farmers. Yeah, I mean, accidents can happen, right? But you know, being careless and not taking precautions, right? Yeah, yeah. I know. Luke from the Outdoor Gear Review channel mentions this all the time. In some of his videos, he talks about that stuff, right? Where he talks about people that are like, you know, I'm trying to paraphrase and quote what he says, but like accidents happen, yeah, you know, something happened randomly, but you know, do not take precautions to know when not to keep pushing hard onward, right? You know, oh, it'll still be good, but isn't an ice go fin, right? That kind of thing, right? Is it worth it, right? Or is it just worth it, or just wait till like next week when it gets cold again, or whatever, right? Yeah, yeah, exactly. I remember, right? Yeah, exactly, right? What's the temperature? Like, like, did they physically full body through, or is it because of vehicles? Because obviously a vehicle's heavier, right? I mean, I was on a frozen lake before. Now it was still below freezing, right? You could see a moat around our shelter, which I showed in that video, right? Because the next morning I broke it, right? But it was slushy, right? But there was still lots of ice underneath. It didn't fin. There was still, you know, that foot of ice underneath, at least, right? Because people were using manual and gas augers to drill for the ice, right? To make their whole fishing hole, right? And I could see, like, yeah, it's deep still. There's still a lot of ice, right? Hmm. Oh, yeah, yeah. It didn't, yeah. So you didn't really, yeah, so it wasn't like that really, really developed hard ice. That's really, really solid, right? It's kind of going for that freeze and thaw cycle, or the thawing out cycle, right? Refreezing, and you know if the temperature's not that cold, right? Yeah, okay. Like, cause I've been on a lake before in -5, -6, right? Sunny too, right? But like the week before and the week before that, it was like -20, right? It was cold enough that there was a deep layer of ice, right? Not just, you know, oh, ice formed, let's go on it. No, no. It's not solid enough or thick enough to support weight, you know? Not just a vehicle, but like a person, right? People, right? Because unfortunately, that, you know, there was that incident in Texas last month that I heard about. Those younger individuals, three of them, right? That fell through ice, right? All right, and they didn't make it, right? I mean, and it happened. I mean, if you think about it, that's a serious thing, right? That's a serious thing. because it's so quick, right? You know, your hands go numb. That gasping thing that they talk about, right? The hand thing I can relate to a little bit. The numbness I can relate to, but the gasping thing and, you know, not being able to move in the cold, then I haven't experienced it yet, right? Do I want to? Not really, but if I do, hopefully it's under a controlled situation where I can experience it, but it's not. I have a safety net. I have a contingency plan for this. For example, right, where you know I have dry clothes on the side, it's a warm place to go to, right? Because I cannot imagine, you know, like having to do that or not even just willingly want to do it, but like accidentally it happened and realize that, you know, I'm cold, wet, in the water, or maybe out. I got out, but I'm freezing because all my layers are wet, right? You know, I might even be wearing wool, 100% wool everywhere, but, you know, I'm still wet. Or I'm still wet, right? Water will still pull heat away faster than the wet. In my opinion, like they say, wool can hold 80% of those numbers. 80% keep you 80% warm even if it's wet. Like, then you're still losing 20%, right? You're only gaining back 80%, right? I mean, if you're dry, you're not gonna be the warmest, right? Moisture water will pull heat away, even from wool. It's just not as fast or as dramatic or maybe as serious at times compared to like cotton, right? Or polyester or nylon or synthetic, right? But in my opinion, like, you know, you're gonna stay dry, right? Because I imagine if your clothing was totally saturated, right? Even wool, yeah, it might be less cold, but it's probably still gonna be cold, right? Because you're totally wet. Water, you're like if you got out of a lake or a river or whatever, right? That body of water that's because you fell through the ice, you'd be soaking wet, right? And that water is cold, and that water temperature is cold, and now you're outside in it, and if it's a little bit of breeze, you're feeling the convection loss of heat too. Water, convection loss. You're just radiating out heat left, right, and center, and there's like nothing holding it back. You're just losing it, right? Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. Dang. But yeah, I mean, like, dang, that would be. Well, maybe one of these days I'll try. In a controlled manner, right? Controlled manner. It's one of those things I'm not doing alone. I need a safety net, right? Just in case. Just in case, right? Safety net, right? Like, it's just like when I did the cold hand submersion challenge. I forget what I needed, but something like that, right? Like, I had one of my hot candles. I had Tinder ready for it, right? I planned a lot of it, right? You know, as a part of, because like, I was trying to mimic to a certain degree, hey, you know, I got wet, it's winter, blah, 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 I need to warm my hands, or whatever, right? With heat source like fire, right? So that's what I did. You know? Yeah. If absolutely necessary, I can dip into it later. Like, remember, in that video, I showed using a very, very small ferrocerium rod. Very, very small, because it's very, very small. Very, very small. Like, later small. Ferrocerium rod, right? Tinder that was ideal. Con. A fire starter or a candle that I know it's gonna work once I ignite it, right? A little bit stronger, I shouldn't say stronger, a little bit more warmer, well, a little bit more oomph than just a normal candle. Because the wick on it is wider, right? I mean, even with those advantages, it still took me a little bit of time to doing it. A little bit of time to just get my hands warming up to a point where I can start using them again, right? So, one of those things. You know, I was supposed to only go to the top of this hour, but it's like 40 after the hour. Well, I guess I might as well just go to the top of the hour now. I forgot. Oops. Well, I'm already here now. And besides, I could use the WT anyway, so. But I do appreciate the people that have been dropping by more consistently, by the way, right? I do appreciate it. You know, regardless if it's in my posts, streams, shorts, or standard long form content, right? Or even messaging me, right? I appreciate that, right? Or the comment section, something like that, right? It shows that, hey, you're still kicking it, and you could spare some time to drop by, say a couple words or whatever, right? And go from there. Cause like, I appreciate that. Right. I do. I really do. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. For Nathan, for someone, yeah. He wears glasses. From Sunset Bonnie, yeah. Babe Bonnie, yeah. Yeah, you're procrastinating with a CR in it. I'm sorry, Iron Virus. You know I had to cover that. Alright. But yeah. Hey! Let's see. I wonder what this is. You know, it's funny. I've shown this bag, the outside of this bag, many, many times. Live, in a video, walked with it. I've never shown the inside yet. Since I've gotten it. Ever since I originally showed what was in this. Well, yeah, Iron Farmers. It's almost 6 Pacific right now. 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern. Right. That's why I'm only going till the top of the hour. Let's see. I was almost thinking of doing a nighttime stream, but we'll see. But yeah. You know. The reason why I haven't shown this bag is because I'm trying to use the contents and wear it first. In terms of putting it on, right? Like, and see. Because, yeah, I know everyone's like, hey, CR, yes? Can we see the go bag? Can we see the contents? It'll come in time. Because it's not the contents for most people that have done any type of survival related stuff, preparedness, bushcrafting, or whatever. You know what's inside. You might not know exactly, but you know when you see it with a C, like literally with a C, right? Those checklists, yeah, you can get an idea of what's already in it, right? And I'm not saying the gear's not important, but me using it, putting it on, trying it out, I think that's more important. Because then, at least that way, I'm actually using it, or at least attempting to using it, right? As much as possible, right? You know. How does it... Can I carry this for long periods of time, right? And yes, I have worn this for, like... At times where it felt like hours straight. At times where... Like, the last time I showed this was back in... When was it? I know I shot the video in the summer. I think I actually showed it back in August or early September, but yeah, 1 to 2, right? 5 minutes worth of content, Right. But one thing I didn't mention in that video, obviously, was that I was actually, you only saw me walking for 5 minutes, but I actually was running it for like an hour and a half. Right. Because I was, because I was going to a grad or yard sale, right? And like literally, I'm wearing this bag this whole time, right? You know, and and this is why I don't put a lot of stuff on the outside of this bag, because I'm trying to make it low key, gray man, like, right? Low key, so no, no random Pharisee rods on the outside. I have a flashlight on the outside. That's it, right? No keys, no tools on the outside, right? Nothing jingling too much, right? You know. You can hear that. Yeah, also if I'm shaking the bag, yeah. But it's not like, if I have keys on dangling, all you hear is this, right? That's more noticeable. Hey, Shannon, welcome. Oh, that's what you're using as your bob now, Shannon? Okay. I mean, do what you can, right? Do what you can, all right? I will admit that, I will say that the bag I did win in a giveaway, by the way. I appreciate that from Wesley, but aside from that, the contents are generally from me, right? And I've actually modified this a little bit more, right? I've modified this a little bit more, especially when you start looking at it a little bit more than just this outside of it. I've actually modified it a little bit more. I've even like helped out the zippers because they're not YKK, right? This bag, like, it's funny. I've seen this, like, I actually noticed this bag now in the videos out there because I'm like, oh, I know that this is the bag from Walmart, right? Like, I've seen people make get home bags, right? GHB bags, GHB, right? And stuff like that. Mini go bags, right? So I went, I take a look and see what they have inside. Yeah, it's gonna be slightly different, right? Different names, different brands, different design, whatever, right? But those core elements are still in there. Whatever it is, right? Food, water, some sort of cover element, right? Containers, right? Maybe a lighter or something like that, right? Poncho, something along the lines of that. An umbrella, whatever, right? Yeah, typical stuff, yeah. Your bob's not average. Well, at least on the bright side on Fun Horse, it's insulated. Dust isn't. Remember, dust is an insulator. That's why you see it on people. You're not supposed to have it on computer-related stuff, right? Because it holds the dryer lint can, right? Because it traps air. It traps air, dead airspace, right? And dead airspace, when it's not, or air that's not moving, is a pretty good insulator. From heat, stuff like that. Holds back some heat. Delays the transfer of heat from hot to cold. Like, I will say one thing. This bag, without going into much detail, that is, I would not I would not call it a ball. It's not a bug out bag. It's more like a get home bag, maybe a go bag. It's in that realm of it, right? Because this is not 3 days worth of supplies. It's not a 72-hour kit either, right? Now, if I had more food, something along the lines of that, could secure water very nicely, and all that stuff, yeah, maybe I could stretch it out, right? But this is more within, like, help me get back home, per se, if I brought it, or, just to give me some supplies, some resources to use if I absolutely necessary. This is why it's not that heavy. I mean, because I weigh myself with and without it. real quick because I have a scale nearby, but yeah, this is like 8 pounds, 9 pounds with water. Yeah, I could put in another pound or two of food if I really wanted to, right? You know, is this gonna handle like the winters here? Maybe if it's -5, -6, 20 Fahrenheit, right? Nothing too dramatically lower than that, right? Because I have basic gloves in there. I don't have, like, the super warm mints in there, right? Like, there's still room in there. Like, I have things in there, like, you might consider for rain gear or whatever, right? Something along the lines of that. Cover elements and stuff like that. You know? This is more like a free season, maybe not extremely cold. Not technically winter, right? Like, I can bring it out now, right? I mean, probably the only thing I would have to do is, like, the water I have, I would have to, you know, hold on to it, right? Keep it warm, right? I mean, I actually have worn this bag in -20 for a shorter walk, but one of the things I had to do to make sure, well, I had to make sure the water I did bring with me was I had to transfer it and put it underneath my jacket so it didn't get cold and freeze. Because if I leave it in the bag, if I walked out right now for an hour, that water would freeze. So it's on the outside, it's on the inside of my bag, but it's so far away from my body that, you know, it might freeze. I mean, yeah, I'll be jingling it, it'd be bobbing up and down. Yes, I did I just say that? Yes. You know, it'd be sloshing, right? The water would be moving, so it might not totally freeze, but if I stand still enough or sit down, or let's just say, yeah, it would probably freeze within an hour, just because it's not moving anymore, right? And it's not staying warm by my body. Yeah, for sure, no time, yeah. Yeah, like a time capsule, yeah. Oh, do you, Shen? Okay, that's cool. That's cool. But yeah, I mean, that's great. I'll go longer. Maybe I will go longer. I apologize for any of those other channels I follow that I'm not in your live stream right now. Please forgive me. but, but yeah. So yeah, like I said, I mean, I actually even have another bag out right now. Because Iron Fire Horse knows, but she knows where I was earlier before I started the stream, right? I was actually talking to them in the backstage Iron Fire Horse for a little bit. So I showed them something else. A sneak peek of something else. I'm not going to show you guys. I have another bag out right now. It's something else I've been just trying to fine tune. The one I just showed, the outside of it, that's more of a, you know, it's set up, right? It's set up. So if I gotta grab something, yeah, it's got some certain little things. Is it as specialized if I fine tune it last minute or the last 10 minutes before I leave? No, right? You know? And it's not as spacious. It doesn't have as much room. See, I must be lost in space because I can't even say the word spacious. More room than my airbag. I really need to make more space for words like that, but yeah. You know. And some of the ideas I've shown in the past may be in this bag. Or at least the concept of it is in that bag. Alright. You know, maybe, like, things I've shown in the past for, like, tape and stuff like that. I know they are in, I've added them in, right? Because it's a useful way to store some without taking overly a huge amount of room in the bag, or real estate in the bag, right? Oh, do you, Shanna? The big one's too much for your bag. It's so good, right? It's just like, yeah. You know what's funny, Iron Fires? I will say I actually have another winter jacket that's like literally, I probably could wear it right now at this temperature with just like a base layer underneath and it'd be good. Right? Because I've tried, I haven't gone long walks with it, but it's more of a jacket or coat that I would wear in extreme or in much colder temperatures. I'm just waiting for it to be that cold again. Right? Because I'm actually testing out to see how warm it is overall, right? But it has to be cold enough outside, and at the moment it is not. All right, at the moment it is not. So yeah, because one of the things that I've been trying to do here is fine tune some of this gear a little bit more, right? Because I think in the preparedness community, right, you know, the oh, get this, here's this, the brand names, you know, oh, here's a gadget, here's version 2.0 and such, right? Lots of gear out there, right? Lots of resources like that, supplies like that, right? You name it, it's out there, kind of deal. From cover elements to illumination, candling devices, tools, multi-tools, knives, cutting tools. Well, there's so much out there, right? I mean, a lot, I guess. Scissors, that fold up that can cut a ring, right? And it costs like $90 Canadian. That will, and stuff like that. There's a lot of that out there, but I also realized that, that's the easy part. Acquiring gear is always going to be the easier part of it. Learning about it, fine-tuning it, the system that you put it into, generally speaking, it's easy enough to gather supplies, but to fine-tune it, to set up a system or a kit takes a little bit more effort. To experience it, to try it out, takes a little bit more effort, right? Anyone can put things in a bag. Supplies in the bag, food, water, whatever, right? But to, source out something really good, set it up too, right? That's another thing why I have these bags out, is because I'm actually double checking on something, Because, getting the gear initially, before I even put it in the bag, that was the easier part. That's the easy part, right? Fine-tuning it, trying the gear out, for real, that's something different, right? Something the experience part of it, right? The gear is the easier part, right? In my opinion. Hey, it's J&J. And Guardian's here too. What's up, GP? Appreciate both of you dropping by. Okay, fine. I'm not showing it, but I will show the bag again. Just because. This is the bag I'm talking about. Right here. And yes, you can see that I'm charging my device right here. Right? Because this can look like any other bag. This could be whatever brand, whatever, right? The tools inside or whatever could be whatever. Could be a Mora. Could be Benchmade, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? But, you gotta be able to have the skills to use the tools, right? It don't matter if you don't know how to use a knife and do things like make fitter sticks or whatever, something along the lines of that, sharpen it or whatever, right? I mean, it's not gonna really matter if you have a Mora or a Swiss Army knife or something, whatever, right? If you can't use it, right? That's what I mean about that. The gear is the easier thing. Because there's numbers, there's information, there's specs or whatever, right? But, I mean, putting something together, right? Like, how do I say this? I think one of the people that I've been watching their videos for a little bit, but Really Big Monkey with David Pearson, right? One thing I like what he does is, yeah, he has tools, let's say cutting tools or whatever, right? But he likes to customize things, put things together, right? Make quote unquote a kit out of it, so to speak, right? Like his video, a lot of stuff, right? He's got, cause he does the sewing, right? Or some of it, right? He doesn't hand sew. He uses a sewing machine to make faster, right? But I'm like, that's so cool, right? Because lately, one of my other followers and someone I've been following, they're getting into sewing too, and they're male, right? I didn't think, they were into that, but they got a Singer, they got old school Singer sewing machines, treadle, blah blah blah, all that stuff. They're trying to restore and all that good stuff, and they're actually not just gathering the gear in terms of the sewing machine, right? They're actually using it, or at least they want to make something out of it, right? And stuff like that. I'm like, that is so cool, right? Because, like, that's how it should be, in my opinion, right? Sewing should be available for everyone to do, right? Anyone can sew. Anyone, well, with skill and all that stuff, and dexterity, but, like, anyone can sew. Anyone can fabricate something, right? Don't be limited just because you're male or female or not. Oh, this is not what I'm supposed to do. That kind of thing, right? You want to be female and plumber? Go ahead, right? You want to be male and do sewing? Go ahead. You want to be female and do some fabrication? Go ahead. You want to, right? Just do it, right? Yeah? Nice, Brooke. Nice. Yeah. Really Big Monkey, David Pearson, yeah. Take care, Iron Firehorse. I appreciate you dropping in this whole time. But yeah, I mean, that's what, like, I think that's more important. Like, I'm not saying the gear's not important, don't get me wrong. Right? If explained, it's a fixed weight, right? But, like, understanding, like, what makes it special in the first place, right? Characteristics and stuff like that. Like, here's a metaphor, right? And maybe one of these days I'll do a more elaborate video about this. But, like, I've mentioned this before, and unfortunately Air Farmers isn't here to hear it again, but I've mentioned this before as a metaphor, right? So, and it'll have a literally marvelous ring to it, but, like, one of those movies out there, right? If you think about gear, tools and stuff like that, right? It is just like a spit it out here. It's very similar, if I used it as a metaphor, but like a medieval suit of armor, right? It protects you. It helps you, right? It can do stuff for you, right? That suit of armor, right? Just like how cutting tools, a layer can do stuff for you. A pen can do something for you, or whatever, a backpack or whatever, right? But just like that suit of armor back then, what's underneath that? What is underneath that? What is underneath that gear that you have, right? Do you have knowledge, skills, experience to back that up, right? Or are you just some person with a suit of armor walking around, or in this case, a backpack or with tools? Or do you actually know how to use them? Have you actually used them, right? It's just like, hey, you can have a suit of armor, or medieval suit of armor. Did you ever go into combat, right? In terms of experience, if you think about it like that, right? You know, that's something I keep in mind now. It's just like, yeah, it's, it's nice to have all the gear, but who are you without it? You know, if anything, keep that in mind, right? Like, who are you without the fishing gear, right? Do you know some additional things too, right? Like, I'm not saying, like, like, oh, I'm gonna bushcraft up a bunch of cordage and use this, right? Yeah. Let's be realistic. That's not to hold as much weight, be as thin, be as reliable as, let's say, tar bank line or paracord, right? But understanding how to do it it can be useful too, right? Or it could be used as part of in conjunction with some other stuff. Combine the things together. Let's just say like it could be one of those things where you use both, right? You add that in. Or supplement it in, if that makes any sense. I mean, I've actually tried the reverse braiding with natural cordage, right? And it's a twine or whatever, right? I'm like, yeah, I've started to understand it, but I also realized that, yeah, that actually takes a lot of time, right? It's hard to recreate, right? That's why cordage, amongst things like cutting tools, can be very difficult to recreate in nature, right? Off the landscape. It takes time, right? I mean, flint knapping. I mean, I've tried very basic things. Have I made a full thing yet? No, not really. But I'm starting to understand it, right? It's not to, oh, hey, I need to replace my, let's say, Amora or Swiss Army knife with one. No. It's so I have the knowledge, I can resort to it if necessary, and I can supplement gear with something I make, for example, right? If that makes any sense. And actually have not just the gear, but the knowledge behind it too, right? Just in case, if absolutely necessary, right? Just like, one of the things I know it does sound like a surprise, but guys, I do not have snowshoes. They're like, what? Sierra's got no snowshoes? What the hell? What? You BSing us, CR, man? I thought you would add one already, right? No, I don't, right? I know the concept behind it. And this one time, I've only tried it once, I've actually tried to make improvised snowshoes from what nature provides, using boughs from a tree. I've done that before, right? I did that back in a long time ago, actually. I didn't go that far, and the snow wasn't that deep, but I started to understand the concept of it, right? So if I ever get snowshoes, I can start to understand the concept why it works, right? So, if I actually had to fix something or whatever, I understand how it works too. Not just like, like here's another example here, right? Your lighter that you have that has some sort of ignition device or whatever on it, right? Let's just say it has a little mini flint, which is basically a little tiny thin ferrocerium rod, right? It's more or less the same, right? It's just a smaller version of your ferro rod, much smaller too, right? Lighter size, right? I mean, what happens if you wear out the flint? Do you know how to replace it? Do you know how to put it back on? Do you know all that stuff, right? And understanding it. Do you understand why it sparks? I mean, why it sparks. Do you understand why the mechanism gives you flame? Do you understand that depressing the gas, the fuel, sparking it, combines fuel with a heat source like a spark, combined with the available oxygen in the air, gives you that flame. Any part of that triangle, you knock that down, no flame, right? So, like, oh, I can't get my lighter to work if there's no flame. You remember that it's below freezing, right? stuff like that. Your fuel level pressure is not that high. You're gonna warm up your later first, right? Or, I got the wheel wet. It won't spark, Oh, but you realize, hey, I got another spark. Let's say those devices that just only generate sparks. I'm not talking about ferrocerium rod, right? It's basically like an empty lighter, right? Do you know? Oh, hey, I can take a lighter that doesn't have a working wheel, that has fuel, and combine it with a lighter that has a spark but no fuel, and combine them together and complete the reaction, right? Complete that triangle, right? So I get both sides of the angles together. Get what I mean? Yeah. So that's something I try to keep in mind, right? And stuff like that. And some other things. Because I've been realizing a lot lately, it's just like, there's a lot of this knowledge. I'm like, man, I need to apply this too, right? And stuff like that. As much as I can. Just in case, right? Or at least know about it, experimented with it, or whatever, right? Like, even lately, I've been trying out some of this winter stuff. There's this one thing I'm still trying out. Oh, yeah. Now, where did I put it? I just had it on the side. Oh, yeah. It's over here. I put it down. I will show you guys something here. I wasn't kidding. I wasn't kidding about this. Yeah, see? Do I know exactly what kind of stone or rock this is? No, I do not. But one thing I do know, characteristic-wise, that I can hold heat with this. Can you make this into a hand warmer? So it's not gonna last as long as like a commercial hand warmer that uses iron and stuff like that. But this is off the landscape. I can reuse this countless, and do that probably countless amounts of times, right? It's just cold right now because it's been sitting by my window. But, like, this, what you just saw, I've heated this up now. With fire, solar, and other sources of heat, right? And I've actually kind of enjoyed how that works, right? Because I've always read about and heard about these thermal mass and all that stuff. Like, I understand about the water aspect and stuff like that. I did that a long time ago, even when I was a kid, right? But the stone thing is a little bit, it's a new to me kind of thing, right? But I can understand there's certain little things about that are very useful that you can't necessarily do with water, right? With water, you need a vessel, a container, a way to heat it up, right? And stuff like that. This, I can use residual heat sources, right? That basically, I'm not gonna be able to really do that with water, because there's not enough thermal energy to warm up the water to a certain degree. But the stone, I can warm it up, right? I've tried this out, so yes. Something I've been doing a little bit more, or at least attempting it, right? Because our role is, like, how useful it is, right? You know what? I will show, just, I don't know. I was thinking of showing an example of it, but maybe I won't. I was going to just warm it up, but, like, there's videos out there, right? And I'm starting to learn a little bit more about it, right? Soapstone, blah, 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 and all that stuff. These are stones. I mean, I've talked to some other people now, and I'm just like, oh, this is a little bit more common than I realize, right? People have bricks, right? Some people have small scale, small soapstones, right, and stuff like that, and along the lines of that, right? And I've been realizing about that kind of stuff more and more too. So as I try to apply it as much as possible, you know. I guess I can randomly just show this, right? Because preparedness is more than just that. Yes, I had this out earlier, by the way. It's more than just that, right? You know, I think, right? I think 2020 definitely showed that part of it a little bit more, right? You know, if you're wondering why I have it out, it's because I'm restocking a bathroom. I just didn't finish it from earlier. But yeah. So let's roll that into my into a washroom. Let's see, what time is it? Let's see. I think I'll go just to the bottom hour. I'm not gonna go anymore. I think this is good enough for now. Now, the next time I do live stream, I'm not sure. You'll see a notification. Maybe I'll give personal notification to some people. Leave, especially if you don't have the bell notification on. I get it. I get it. If you're subscribed or following a lot of channels, it's kind of having following 5,000 channels and having 5,000 bell notifications. The notification might be a little too much, right? It's right. Keep your eyes open, right? I'll try to give them as much notification as possible, right, and stuff like that. Next topic or video. Next topic or for a live stream, I'm not sure yet, but I will say one thing for sure: there is definitely gonna be videos, right? Because I have videos for the rest of this month already. So, if I don't do the video portion this month, at least maybe I could do the live stream portion, right? Like I am right now, right? Because if I wasn't actually doing this live stream right now, I'd probably be somewhere else or shooting video. One of the two, right? But I decided to do this part this time around. A little bit more. As I double check on a few things here. Top off these AAA batteries I have here. Because I was using the battery bank that I was charging them with to charge my phone. Because I was walking with it. I didn't want to be tethered to an outlet or anything like that. I was just tethered to the battery bank. But yeah. So that stone that you saw me, which is in my hands right now, I'm actually trying to look into this a little bit more. Just to see. I'm actually personally surprised how warm it's even at a small scale, right? So because I've heard these elaborate, there's videos out there. I've never visited one of these sites personally where they have large, and I'm saying large amounts of heat mass, so and thermal mass, right? Don't get me wrong, I can experience the water aspect of it, but in terms of stone, right? Where these stories, these videos I hear about this stuff, right? That's why I dived in. I decided to try it out, at least in a small scale, just to see for myself. Is this all what it's cracked up to be, or is it just up in smoke? Right? I'm like, this is more useful than I realized. And a lot of the stuff I wouldn't even have known if I didn't even try it, right? Even at a small scale, right? I knew it was gonna be warm. Don't get me wrong. It's thermal mass, right? Like if you've had commercial hot hand warmer, yeah, instant hand warmers, reusable hand warmers, hot water, right? Those reversible chemical reaction, the reversible ones, right? That you put back in hot water, blah blah, and all that stuff, right? You know, there's another way of doing it apparently too, which is exothermic releases heat. That I haven't tried, but like the stone thing, I'm like, yeah, I knew it was gonna work. It's more like how effective or how much heat or warmth am I really getting, and how long does it really last, right? So that is one of those things that a video won't really tell you too much, right? A video is not going to tell you how warm it really is. You got to feel that. You got to feel that with your own hands, your own body, right? You know, I can tell you a number. That's just as a quantitative measurement, but like being able to feel it with your own hands, that's different, in my opinion. Okay, Shannon. You know, that's something different, right? And I realized that too. That's why I think, since I'm getting into this now, I think I'm going to keep my eyes out for it now. Look for the perfect stones to use for it, right? And slowly dry them out, right? And stuff like that. I'm actually going to try this out, right? You know? Like, I kind of, the one that I just showed, I showed, right? I kind of like this. Originally, actually, to be honest, originally, my intention for this was like, hey, you can sharpen a knife or a tool with rocks or whatever, right? Depending what it is, right? That's originally how I started it. Then I'm like, wait a second. Why don't I use this for something else? And something I can actually use, right? And it's useful. It doesn't take up that much room on me. You know what I mean? So, like, I tried some of the stuff, and I was pleasantly surprised how well it works for what it is. Right? You know, like something that fits in the palm of my hand, right? And I'm just like, provides warmth for let's say 45 minutes. Well, it depends how you insulate it, but like let's say 45 minutes, an hour or whatever, right? You know, if you insulate it well, so you slow down the heat loss or heat transfer, so it takes longer for the heat to spill out. Yeah, you can make them last even longer, right? So like, but these are the kind of things that I didn't realize until I actually started using it and trying it out, and just like, yeah, right. And I also realized another thing. They can get a lot hotter than I realized, too. So like, yeah. I also realized that part too. The safety aspect of it. I was like, yeah, you definitely. What some of those videos out there that say, oh, it can burn you? Yeah, it can. You gotta know the difference, right? You gotta know how hot it really is, right? And done stuff like that. Rapid in like let's say wool, for example, right? That's something that's gonna resist the heat a lot more than, synthetic or cotton. Because yes, the stones can get hot enough to ignite things if you put that much heat into it, right? This is why I said before I always use small heat sources, residual heat for this, right? Because I realized if I actually put an active heat source, the temperature of the stone skyrockets go really high for what it is. It's hot, not glowing hot, but hot, like in terms of like yeah. So that's one of the things I'm trying to learn. Maybe I'll do more video on it later in the year, or I'm gonna try it out myself. That's why there's not video, and if you're randomly watching this part, well, you just tuned in for the last 3 hours of me, right? That's why I'm saying this on the back end of the stream, right? I'll be like, oh yeah, I already said it. When? In the live stream? Really? Yeah. It was on the back end. So if you heard me or scanned through and heard this part, it's like, oh, this interests me, kind of deal, right? What time is it? All right, so it's 23 after. Yeah, bottom of an hour. I know I said the top of the hour earlier, but bottom of the hour for sure. Well, for 2 reasons. It's getting late. Well, it's not that it's getting late, but I haven't eaten supper, dinner tonight yet. So, yes, I know. I'm ending the stream in 6 minutes because CR's hungry. Come on, guys. You know there was no surprise in here now. Come on. You guys gotta admit, there was no surprise. You knew eventually that the food would come back in, right? I know I was talking about like shelter and some water and stuff like that, but yeah, it's important too, right? Food keeps your metabolic going, right? And stuff like that. That's why, folks, I get hungry because it's winter. Yeah. Right? Because I gotta fuel the body in the winter, alright? To maintain the metabolic heat and stuff like that. You know? I'm thinking what to make to eat this evening. I think I actually know exactly what I'm gonna do. Oh. Did I? Well, you know what? Hold on. I just rolled. I left the light on when since earlier before I started the stream. Whoops. My bad. Whoops. I usually don't do that. Yeah, I'm actually no word of a lie here. I will no I know is this the last one I have? I think. Well, I'm pulling it over right now, but I will show you guys here. It's part of the preparedness part. Yeah. See, by the way, that's from the fall-time harvest, by the way, and yes, it is that color for a reason, and yes, it is what you think it is. I was thinking of having it this evening, though. That's why I'm bringing it out. I forget. Oh, I wrote on it, too. Well, never mind. I can't read it. It's been so cold or whatever. It's faded. I guess I'm going to have to use something else to make labels, because I can't even read the label. I know what's in it. Well, I know what the base form of this is, but I forgot if I made this a spicy version. Let me put this over here for a moment here, because I'm going to quit having it again, but yeah. I was thinking maybe something like that tonight for me, because it's been cold, right? It warmed me up, too, amongst some other things. So, 2-minute warning here for this live stream. I appreciate everyone that dropped in, especially Iron Firehorse. I appreciate her keeping me company. Of course, you too, Shannon, right? I know. Huga came by. Molly, Brooke, GP, Gardner came by. All right. Dave, Mr. Knight. All right. It's almost nighttime here. Right. I know you came by too. I appreciate that and all that good stuff, right? Yeah. I think. I'm not sure what I'll do for the rest of the evening, but I know one thing's for sure. I'm gonna eat. I'm just trying to decide what I want to add to that now. I have some leftovers that I want to use up. That's why I'm actually considering it, because a soup is actually the easiest thing, right? Or a stew, right? Just kind of put it together, heat it up, kind of deal, right? As long as the flavors kind of work well and all that stuff, it'll work out. Right? It won't be that bad. And for being a colder day today, for winter, soup seems like a really good idea, right? For what it is, unless for some reason I change my mind. Oh, you've had some Swisser? Nice, Brooke. Nice, man. Nice. What's the time? Yeah, about 90 seconds here. Well, on the bright side, at least I'll have lots of solar lights. I mean, stored solar energy. It was sunny here, and I was charging solar light batteries with solar power too. So I'll actually have some to use tonight too if I want to, right? As I bank some of that power. Oh, my battery bank went down 1 bar. It's at 1. No, it was at that 2 mark, probably at 30-40%, but yeah, it's at 25% left. Yeah, like I said. See, 1 bar. 1 bar left. So I'll probably just empty the battery out until it starts flashing. And put the power somewhere else before I top it back off again. And like I said, I have another full battery bank, so I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna dip into a situation today where I need everybody's battery bank full right now. Maybe not. I'll probably still be good with just parts of the 1 or 2 full, right? Another one, well, not full, but I also have other batteries to dip into, backup sources and all that stuff. And like that, I think that is that time. So it is the bottom of the hour here, 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern right now, and I appreciate all you folks dropping by. I appreciate it. It's not just the watch time. That's cool and all, but like actually seeing you folks drop in, right? The socialization part of it, right? Because this is live, right? The live real-time interaction, right? Something you don't get really from a static video or even a premiere, right? No, it's not the same as being in person or talking on device, but, because you guys are typing and you guys can hear me talking and see things, but, next best thing, right? So go out there, everyone. Do something proactive right now, right? Whatever it is, right? That extra can of beans or food that you enjoy. That water, right? That elixir of life, right? Not just for drinking, not just for bathing, not just for cleaning, for a lot of things that we do, right? Require water, even things that you don't know. Clothing, fuel, some of that uses water too, right? And all that stuff, right? That car wash, remember that? Yeah, you don't need water for that too, right? And have some cover elements available for you to use, whatever it is for, it could be sunscreen in the summer, it could be a coat in the winter, could be an umbrella during the springtime, could be a windbreaker during the fall or when the wind's picking up. All right. All that stuff, right? Because things are changing out there. So we're going to adapt too. The best that we can. Skill and knowledge get better as you practice. And maybe you get more proficient at it too. And try to help someone when possible, everyone. Take care. Enjoy the rest of the night. I appreciate everyone that dropped by on this live stream. Until the next video, peace out from the one known as CR. Later, everyone. And now I'm done.